All right, what's going on, everybody? Glad to be back. Took a week off. Life gets in the way. You know how that thing goes, but we are back live in Effect Conscious Approach on YouTube. Shouts out to everybody for checking us out. Shouts out to everybody in advance who will, follow along with us on the channel. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, leave those comments. We certainly appreciate it. Before we get things kicked off, as always, check us out: Amazon Music, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. As we continue to grow this community out, we want to be available in any and all places possible. And as I always like to say, as someone who does not subscribe to 10% of the content that he consumes, I understand fully the value of your digital currency. So I know, or rather we know, that if you even bother to make the effort to subscribe to our channel, it means that you're getting enough value out of it to feel like it's necessary. So we appreciate that. To everybody who has already made that leap, thank you very much. And in advance to anybody who will make that leap in the future, thank you very much. If this is your first time checking us out, JV Wins, Dogon SS, man, this is how we like to rock and roll. Just kicking around some logical content, conversing over some interesting topics and, getting folks taking place with some interesting conversations. So with that out of the way, we're going to go ahead and get right into it. Got several interesting topics to talk about tonight. The first one that we are going to talk about is an individual who, despite his immense popularity, is not at the moment a friend of the channel. That being Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart, despite how hugely popular he is, we haven't really found that many avenues with which to use sound bites from him to talk about interesting topics in the world of culture and society. But this is one of them. So if this is any indication, then perhaps at some point in the near future, he will become a friend of the channel. But thus far, Mr. Hart is not a friend of the channel. However, I did find this piece of video interesting. So Kevin Hart, he's got a new stand-up special on Netflix. It's called Act My Age or Acting My Age or something like that. And he's now doing press in promotion of his new stand-up special. Now, I don't know if this particular interview is a part of the promotion of that stand-up special or if it's all just a coincidence. I'm not exactly sure. But this was interesting video because this woman here on this show attempted to ask Kevin Hart somewhat of a trap question, in my opinion. Would he prefer a gay son or a thought daughter? And Kevin Hart's response to that question I found to be pretty interesting. So let's listen to Kevin Hart navigate this woman's trap question, and then we'll discuss how we feel about it on the back end.
Would you rather have a gay son or a thought daughter?
I would rather have two healthy kids. Like, it doesn't matter to me. Two healthy children. And the fact that you have to put them in those categories says a lot about who you are.
Oh, right? No, don't you dare.
I'm just telling you, I think the real problem is in the thinker, not the answerer. The thinker. Maybe you should just ponder on that for a second.
Which do you give less of a fuck about, gay rights or women's rights?
Well, first and foremost, rights are rights. You should care about them all. Everybody has a voice and everybody deserves to be heard. What I want to do is be a part of the change that the world desperately deserves and hopefully get it to a point where we're all on the same accord.
This guy doing, unbelievable. I guess I need a new cooler system. Oh, yeah, there we go.
Okay, so very diplomatic of him in the way that he answered that question. Did you buy any of what he was selling there?
No, I'm not buying it. Now, granted, his responses were, as you say, it was a political answer. He's being correct there. Not burning any bridges. If anything, he's building bridges with that one. So I take that more of a, I thought this was going to be, more of a real question, but this seemed to be a layup for him. So I would take this for promo for his comedy stuff. because this came off as a skit, more of a skit than an actual question. However, this is unfortunately a conversational piece that does go along and make its rounds on social media. And there's been times where I'm scrolling and I come across this question where they're asking this literal question of thought daughter or gay son. And then there's this whole the person that actually got asked the question actually answered it. And now there's this whole debate going on in the comment section. And the way I look at it is engagement farming, from these creators, basically just asking these hot pointed questions that, of course, whatever you answer, if you decide to answer honestly, is going to get you in hot water.
It's going to be the wrong answer.
It's going to be the wrong answer, of course. And then there's going to be the peanut gallery, typing away in the comment section, and then thus the engagement is born. So then you'll see the shares go up, the bookmarks, the likes, the comments. And so I always looked at it as a situation of why are we doing this? And unfortunately, man, I've noticed it in our community. I don't really see this question being asked in other communities. This ultimatum. And so I'm not a fan of the question. And so Kevin Hart himself, the way that he chose to respond in this context, it gives the impression of, hey, I don't care for the question either. Because at the end of the day, what takes precedent over all of that is what he said is, hey man, you just want a healthy baby. And all that other stuff, is you don't want to wish anything, around that topic. So you don't want to say one thing, one direction, one thing in the other, man. It's best to just stay away from that. And the best way to do it is to give an answer that, because who says, man, there's no gun to nobody's head. So I don't have to answer this. So I choose to give my answer. And I think that's what's best when anybody asks you any of these absurd ultimatum questions. To me, it's like some weird self-fulfilling prophecy for you to even get into the mindset of answering something like that. So just back out and abort. So I'm with Kevin on this one. As politically as he came off in that, but that's an answer I would have given. But what are your thoughts, bro, on Kevin Hart getting pressed by this young lady here, asking about whether would you have a thought daughter or a gay son? What are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, it was a trap. It was a trap question, and I don't know if it was a bit or not. If it was, then that kind of takes the air out of the steam of any sort of societal observation that you can gather from the exchange. But if it wasn't a bit and she was legit asking that question because it's an internet meme-ish thing to do.
Yeah.
First of all, I agree with you that it's an internet trollish conversation starter. So I do think it serves that purpose first and foremost, in that a question like that is going to get people talking, and then it just boosts your it boosts your channel into the algorithms of the internet, because then you become trending.
Mm-hmm.
So it serves that purpose. But furthermore, Kevin Hart being in the position that he's in, it does him no service if there was an honest answer to that question for him to answer it honestly.
Exactly.
Suggested, no matter which question he answers, if he goes one way or the other, he's going to be alienating a large group of people who likely comprise a decent percentage of his fan base.
Mm-hmm.
So from the purpose of career self-preservation, it does not behoove him to answer the question, because I'm pretty sure he has a lot of gay fans, and I'm pretty sure he has a lot of women who are fans who are for the streets. You don't want to turn any of your fans away. That is ends in his pocket, and it's notoriety, social cachet. and it's also actual physical currency.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to turn your back on any of those various revenue streams, so it's best to just be neutral. But I will say this: trust and believe. As neutral as Kevin Hart is, and as tactful as he approached answering that question, make no mistake about it. In his honest heart of hearts, he does have a preference in terms of that question. I think most of us do. I think in private, he may answer that question honestly, because every single person walking on this earth does have preferences when it comes to family values.
Mm-hmm.
Now, just because you have preferences when it comes to family values doesn't mean that if those preferences aren't met, it's a hard stop on life. You know, like, let's say you don't want a thought daughter, but your daughter ends up, curating a career for herself on OnlyFans. Are you going to turn your back on your daughter? I would assume no. Like, that's your child. You're going to make the best of the situation. Try to be as understanding as possible and still be as involved a parent in your child's life as possible, despite the fact that that particular preference of yours wasn't met. So if your preferences are violated, it isn't necessarily a hard stop on life, but everybody has preferences.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that Kevin Hart, the private individual, and not Kevin Hart, the superstar stand-up comedian entertainer, does have an inkling one way or the other when it comes to answering that question.
Mm-hmm.
It just so happens that in today's current society, you can no longer be honest when it comes to preferences with family values. You have to play it one way. You either have to be neutral and don't answer the question,
Mm-hmm.
or you have to just be an ultimate ally of everything and say everything is great. Because it does do you a disservice to be honest and address what your actual preferences are. But I hope anybody who does believe that this was not a bit and was in fact a legitimate interview isn't bamboozled into believing that those are Kevin Hart's true feelings, because I can assure you they are not. Just the same as everybody watching this video or everybody walking around on planet Earth does have specific preferences when it comes to family values, he's no different. He's just tactful and smart enough to know that you can't publicly address them. I don't think that that's necessarily the best thing in the world, but that is the way that the world is presently constructed. So if you want to have a viable career and not alienate too many people, best to play ball, because within this particular context, honesty is not the best policy.
Yeah, I hear that. And I also think it's a trap, because a lot of people, especially people that have family, values and stuff like that, they don't want either. So then the weird part about the question is you're forced to pick one. And my thing was, you shouldn't feel obligated to give an answer to a troll who's asking you a troll question.
Yeah.
And so, so it's a double-edged sword question. It's like, catch this double-edged sword. And it's like, well, why do I have to catch the sword, period? I choose not to catch the sword. Throw that at other people. But I'm not catching that sword, and I'm not having that in my realm of possibilities of thoughts or things that I'm going to look out for my family. Like, I'm not bringing that witchcraft into my home. Don't ask me no spell type question like that. That's the whole point. And that content creation has gotten into this space, and it's only going to get worse, where they're going to continue to do these troll type questions or whatever, and the internet feels obligated to answer.
It's interesting that you say that. Remember back in the day, those Vine videos, back when Vine was a thing, like that. I feel like that's what content creation has become. It's become one continuous loop of Vine videos. Because back when we used to see those skit videos, we knew the absurdity of them, and we can dismiss them as being absurd, but we would just look at them as entertainment that went viral. Nowadays, because content is king and streamers are the new celebrities, especially in this country, that kind of environment has traversed over into legitimate interview settings where you're asking people questions and
That's
stuff.
insane.
It's weird. It's weird. So like now we can be legitimately watching an actual interview involving people with credibility in the world.
Yeah.
And it's an actual expose in trolling behavior.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Because the bar has been lowered that much.
Yes. And we also have this area in content creation where the whole interview in and of itself is completely satire, where there's nobody being serious at all. The person asking a question, nor the person that's actually answering. Some of them are pretty good. I can get down with some of it, but others are just swings and misses. And so yeah, I'm not a fan of people asking people ultimatum questions like that. I just, and that's also in normal everyday life too, man. Because you'll especially when y'all, in the talking phase, y'all figuring each other out or whatever, the vetting process. And there's been times I've been asked these questions, not this in particular, but these ultimatum questions where neither way I win. And I go, well, I choose not to answer those. And I'll give my response of, there's other possibilities in life, other than this scenario. And, I choose not to. Or if I choose to answer, I will just take the high road. Like he said, I just want a healthy child. How about that? So let's start there. And so I think it's just a lesson in life, man, that people that want to control and manipulate you. They'll ask you these questions, and they'll most likely give you an ultimatum type of scenario, or if you got to choose, room A or room B. And, for the most part, man, you don't have to choose either one of those rooms. And, you have the right to say no. You don't have to answer, especially these hypotheticals. I'm not going down these You know how many times I've gotten arguments in my life, with my significant others at the time, because we're having hypothetical conversations, and I'm answering either honestly or I try not to be too honest, and I skate around it, and and then an argument ensues anyway. So that's when I realized, like, I'm not playing these little games. So it could be with an interview, or I'm talking to somebody, interpersonally. I'm not doing it. So all in all, I just think that the master class in handling this, and you don't have to be answer it in a comedic tune like Kevin Hart did there, but I think it's just best to take the high road. And if the question makes you uncomfortable, you shouldn't feel obligated to answer.
I agree. I think multiple things can be true at the same time. It is an aspect of pinning people into a corner and forcing them into a bucket, because no matter which way you answer the question, people are going to cast aspersions on your character based upon your response, because that response is going to fly in the face of somebody somewhere.
Yes.
And so it's best to not participate. So that is true. But then what is also true is, in this day and age, you can't actually express your true feelings when it comes to family values preferences. Because then you're also upsetting people, unfortunately, even though it's just your honest preferences, and people are entitled to those, whether you like it or not. People are entitled to that, and the vast majority of humans, I believe, have them. But we've reached a point in which you can't actually express them. But the ultimatum dynamic, you're 100% on the money with that. And I feel like this is just a societal dynamic in general. It's not just with stuff like this. We see it with sports as well. Do you think this player is the GOAT, or do you think this player is the GOAT? And if you answer this, it means you don't like the other player. Right. Stupid stuff like that. When the answer is always matters of gray. Life is nuanced. I said that 1,000 times. The answer is never black and white. The answer is always somewhere in the middle. But extremism is the going rate these days. You have to be dug in on one aisle or the other. And it's absurd. That's what's ruined politics. It's what's ruining sports. And it's what's ruining general social discourse at large. So I commend, well, commend is a strong word, but I don't blame him for answering the question in the centrist way that he did. I would have done the same thing. It's just, it's not worth the trouble. It's not worth the hassle of speaking your preferences into the atmosphere. You should just kind of keep those close to the vest and play things neutral. And if you don't like the idea that people aren't being genuine with their responses, then I would suggest that you take a step back and look at the way that we've gotten to this point in the world where it is counterintuitive for an individual to be honest when asked a question that everyone intuitively knows they have an honest answer to.
Hey, well said, man. And I would assume this is still, like whether it's true or like that this was an actual interview or not. I still think this is part of his promo for his Netflix thing. And I saw some clips of it that they were promoting it, and I wasn't swayed by it at all. And so here's the thing with Kevin Hart. I think Kevin Hart's a funny human being. I think he's funny. I don't think he's a good comedian. There's a complete difference. I think I'm a pretty funny guy. I don't think, as much as I would try, I don't think I would be a good comedian. I'm a funny person. And I think Kevin Hart's a funny guy. So, and so his little hand-to-hand stuff, if you have him in a movie and he's playing like a small little role here, I don't want to see a whole movie of him. He can't carry stuff to me. But I think he is a funny dude. And, but I tried watching that, just some clips online, and I'm like, I'm not going to sit down for a whole hour Netflix special of this. So if you guys watched it out there, let me know down in the comment section if you guys watched it or you guys think Kevin Hart is actually funny. Me personally, I don't think he's a good comedian. I do think he's a funny guy, but I'm not watching it. Sorry.
A lot of people disagree with you. I can't
believe that.
Yeah.
But there are people that think he's funny. Me personally, I think he's more. It's so one-dimensional, man. His humor. I can't go for a whole hour of that. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, honestly, I don't really know what comedy is right now. Personally, I'm confused as to what is comedy. So I can't even really comment on it. I know what I found funny growing up with stand-up comedy. And I know that today that brand of stand-up comedy is largely dead. So yes, I don't know what it is. I don't know what is or is not considered comedy. And this is a bit of a sidebar to the conversation, but certain comedians who do stand-up who are pretty popular, I've had similar experiences to you in which I've watched their stuff and I don't find it funny. It might be our sensibilities. It might be it might be the time in which we came up watching comedy. And maybe there's a disconnect. It could be a generational thing. I'm not exactly sure. Because like I said, there's people who swear by Kevin Hart being funny. So it is what it is, but I hear what you're saying. I personally never found his brand of stand-up comedy to be great. But the kind of stand-up comedy that I grew up liking and thinking was funny is a brand of stand-up that he doesn't do. So unlike music, which I do think is objectively worse, I think maybe when it comes to comedy, it's just a matter of differing sensibilities. I'm not exactly sure. But I've always appreciated stand-up comedians who can weave in social commentary with their stuff and make it funny. And he's more of a self-deprecating,
right?
Laugh at me, laugh at
me, fall over the chair. I don't have time for that.
His style is definitely more self-deprecating. Laugh at how dysfunctional my family is. Laugh at how short I am. Laugh at how I run away from having fights and all of that kind of stuff.
That's not funny, bro.
Which clearly people think is funny. They do. People think it's funny.
I don't know, man. Y'all let me know. Am I tripping or not? Me personally, I think that there's levels to this, man, and he just ain't on that top tier. I'm sorry.
Who is though? Is my question.
Hey, man, I'll keep the top tier blank if I have
to. And that's my point. My point. I feel like stand-up comedy as an art form right now is like a carcass that is slowly decomposing on the road on a hot sunny day. That's what I think.
Damn. Hey man, it is what it. Hey, but let us know down in the comment section, guys. Who's your top tier comedian? As a side note, love to hear your thoughts. Me personally, I would probably have to do some digging. But I could think of some people, but they're not top tier. Nobody's making me fall out of chair no more. Right, I guess I'm getting too old, man.
Yeah, me neither. I had a few people who were like, "Bro, Joe Coy is so funny," and I tried to watch one of his specials, and I was just sitting there like, I'm not finding this funny. But he sells out arenas, he sells out shows. Mad people find him funny. I'm missing the boat on it. So comedy's in a weird space for me at the moment.
Yeah, we'll have a sidebar conversation later about comedians, but I don't think that guy's funny either. So sorry.
Hey, shouts out to Kevin Hart, man. You made it onto the channel.
Congratulations, sir. Congratulations.
Yeah, it is indeed an honor.
I took your side this time, Kevin, but don't push your luck. All right, don't push your luck, man.
And from Kevin Hart, we move on to Juelz Santana, who has some unique thoughts about the value of the skill of reading. Needless to say, Juelz Santana thinks that learning how to read is overrated. He thinks that instead of focusing on learning how to read, kids should be learning financial literacy and how to run businesses. He doesn't think that you need to learn how to read in order to be able to do those things. Thus, he doesn't feel like reading is necessary to be successful in life. So this says Juelz Santana claims kids don't need to learn to read. It's no secret that people have a lot of strong feelings when it comes to the topic of education. This includes Juelz Santana, who shared his thoughts on the matter during a recent appearance on the No Funny S podcast. According to him, financial literacy should be made a bigger priority than it is now. He even thinks it should take precedence over reading. By the time they get to the 9th grade, they should be learning how to start businesses, but they don't really need to learn how to read. When asked to choose between math and reading, he doubled down. Math, he declared. You can listen to a book on YouTube. You can still obtain the information. You don't have to know how to read. I believe common sense is better than everything. Santana proceeded to call himself a common sense N-word and to claim that he'd rather have 0 book smarts than lack street smarts. I try to understand people. Like nowadays, you can listen to a book. He continued, also revealing that Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power was the last thing he read. That's also a book that I read. Co-host Kenny KP Supreme then argued that reading is essential for understanding contracts, prompting Santana to push back once again. Reading is just when people want to embarrass you and try to play you, or you can't read your contract. Anybody who said you can't read your contract, they didn't read their contract. They had a lawyer read their contract. They just saying it to be funny. This isn't the only controversial take Juelz Santana has shared in recent months. Earlier this year, he also weighed in on Cameron and Jim Jones's beef, confirming that it's not something he's willing to condone. Nobody wins when the family feuds, he said, no matter what we're going through behind the scenes. So all relevant links are in the description of this video. Of course, you can click on that YouTube embed to watch that interview and talk about Juelz expressing his thoughts that reading isn't really that important. What did you think about his synopsis there that, one shouldn't learn how to read because it's not that important?
I think he's wrong. All right. I think he's wrong there. And I think that, and this also explains his lyrics. Now, mind you, yeah, I have some songs in the playlist, some old stuff from Santana that I personally think he snapped, but he was more of it explains some of his rhymes. Explain some of his rhymes. I get his point though. I get what he's trying to say. But to me, I think this is a problem of priorities. I think this is a priority issue where he's looking at what can make you the most money. And he believes that if you know your numbers and you work, and have a business and you work on that business and blase splees, then you'll just have money. But the thing that I've realized about reading and the ability to read is that, I don't have any numbers or anything in front of me, but I'm pretty sure there's a strong correlation between reading and certain crime statistics. And I believe there was something out there where there was like either a third grade or something reading test or whatever. And by that test, they can determine how many prison beds they're going to need later on. When those kids be, hit of age. And so I don't think that correlation is there because it doesn't eventually end up in being something else. Those people might end up getting into a life of criminality. Now, just because you don't know how to read doesn't mean you're necessarily going to be a criminal. But, my point is, I think that there's something to reading, and it's not completely irrelevant as he's trying to make it sound. And so I think it's dangerous rhetoric. And I don't know how many people are going to go for this, outside of people who don't read. They're going to double down on what Santana is saying. Like, yeah, he's right. Santana, he made it. He's successful. He doesn't read. But man, if you're going to be running businesses, let's say you get these kids, learning business practices from 9th grade on, and they actually get into this position where they're actually, that person. When it comes to business, their inability to read could cost them everything. And, you relying on other people, other things in order to educate you on something because you don't want to read, it can pose a problem later. So, me personally, I don't think any life skill needs to be overlooked. I don't think any of these things are completely irrelevant. I think that these kids have the capacity to learn how to read and do math and learn how to run a business and. But as I was leading with is that, where are your priorities? If your priorities aren't involved in trying to elevate yourself and have all the tools that you need to be a successful person later, but your priorities are involved of how can I make the most money? How can I be the most lit? How can I be the most on? Then yeah, if that's where your priorities are, then you'll throw reading to the wayside because it actually is a skill that requires focus and attention and, brain power. So me personally, not a fan of this take. I always had I always thought Juelz was a cool dude, but this is a horrible take, and I can't stand behind this. But what are your thoughts, man, on Juelz Santana saying that, hey, man, reading isn't actually fundamental; it's actually quite unnecessary. What are your thoughts, bro?
Yeah, I'm gonna meet him halfway. I'll meet him halfway. So the general idea that reading is an unnecessary skill, I find completely ridiculous. You drew up the correlation anecdotally between reading and crime statistics. I'm just going to draw the correlation between reading and general comprehension. Now, you might say other intrinsic basic skills like mathematics are more important than reading, but what you cannot convince me of is the ability to comprehend at an adequate level not being important. And I do think that there is a correlation between the skill of reading and the capacity for comprehension of concepts of varying degrees of complexity, from the simplest thing to the most complex, complicated, concepts that one can learn. There are certain aspects of a person's ability to adequately comprehend sets of information that I believe are correlated with the skill of reading because it activates the same part of the brain that requires you to be able to process information adequately. And I do think that in order to be successful with learning said math skills and running said successful businesses, you have to be able to comprehend information. So to just summarily dismiss reading as something that is essential to me is something that I completely disagree with. Furthermore, his analogy, or not even an analogy, but his example of, you know, people who claim that they read their contracts are just saying that to make fun of you because they didn't even read their contracts. They had somebody else read it for you. Okay, so basically you're just a mule who's setting himself up to get made, who's setting himself up to get taken advantage of.
Yep.
How does that help you? It reminds me of Chris Rock had the joke about Stevie Wonder because Stevie Wonder's blind. So he was saying Stevie Wonder's blind and he's really rich, but he don't know if he got hundreds of ones in his hand because he can't see anything.
Come on, man.
Just saying that was what Chris Rock said, right? Don't know if he got hundreds of ones. So why wouldn't you want to know how to read the contents of your contract if for no other reason than to know for sure that a person who's interpreting a particular document for you isn't misleading you or lying to you in an effort to be able to siphon you for stuff or take advantage of you? How can you verify that that's not the case if you cannot read it for yourself? You're just going to rely on others to read these things for you for the rest of your life into perpetuity. How do you know that what they tell you is on that document, since you can't read, isn't actually something that's wrong and they're saying something that's not true to be able to take advantage of the situation?
Exactly.
So all the way around, the idea that reading isn't important is ridiculous. I think that that's dumb, and I think it's very dangerous rhetoric. Now, here's where I will meet him halfway. The idea that children should be learning financial literacy at an earlier age. I agree with that 100%. I think the capacity to comprehend things like starting businesses, certain basic things when it comes to building, businesses, lines of credit, starting a 501c, creating an LLC, all of these various things, things like business credit and whatnot. Those are things that can be taught to children at a very young age, for sure. And I do think that that is a hole in the education system in this country that is actively exploited every single year that it isn't instituted as a part of the curriculum. But it's purposefully being left out of the curriculum because this country is a capitalistic country. And in capitalism, you need people to be funneled into labor and employment. And the more you teach young people financial literacy and business acumen, and the more you put them on the fast track to entrepreneurism, and the more you put them on the fast track to getting MBAs so that they can create businesses and be in positions of leadership and management, the less you're going to be able to fill in the ranks of employment and labor and servitude. And this country cannot thrive or survive if not for laborers and people who are in the modern day slavery system to feed this system by spending money as consumers.
Mm-hmm.
So, the idea that children need to be taught financial literacy at an earlier age is something that I would agree with. But I also think, and I'm not sure if Juelz thinks about it along those lines, I also think that it's something that's being intentionally left out of curriculums at that delicate stage of development. Because the most important thing is to feed cattle into the farm system of employment and consumerism. And the more people that you have on top making the money and creating the opportunities and creating the businesses, the less people you're going to have spending the money on goods and services. And this country needs cattle in order to be able to continue to fund and fuel this capitalistic system. So I understand the spirit of where he's coming from to that extent. Thus, I'm willing to meet him halfway. But the idea that reading isn't important to me is utterly ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody, for the most part, I don't know who would actually disagree with the portion of, kids need to learn financial literacy, but as you mentioned, bro, like depending on this school system, whether you're going to private schools, charter schools or whatever, man, it's all a farce if you ask me. They're just big daycare centers. And honestly, me personally, as you say, to make cattle, they're farms. They're they're what's the word I'm looking for? Indoctrination camps. You know what I'm saying? Like, our whole generation got fed lies. My college debt is the proof of that. And a lot of people in our generation's college, their debt is also to prove with that. People out here that got degrees, multiple degrees, struggling to find decent income. That's due to lies. And so the school system is predicated on funneling people to be cattle, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, man, as far as like reading is concerned, because growing up, man, I didn't like reading. I could read. I'd rather watch TV. I'd rather listen to an audiobook, or something, and but this is before the days of audiobook. This is when I actually in school. I would just rather watch TV and whatever. And so, my parents, it was having a hard time, man, with just getting me enthusiastic about reading. So when they took me to the library, they was like, hey, don't get that over there. They knew I like basketball and football. So they was like, bro, go to the sports section and get those things. So then I got some books, got one on Hakeem Olajuwon. I got one on, I forgot what the other one was about, but I got some basketball books and some football books. And I was reading those, and I was reading those books. And then at that point, I was like, hey, man, I actually like this. And then so it got to the point to where, I don't know who told me this or where I came up with it, but it was around that time of, they're giving me this stuff in school that sucks for a reason, because reading doesn't suck. What they're giving me sucks. So then at that point, I was upset with the school system and I really felt like they were trying to make people disinterested in reading because of the stuff that they're giving these kids to read. Everybody learns different, but they have these sanctioned things.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure Juelz was in the same boat where, look, I don't feel like reading this stuff. I don't feel like, reading this thing over here or whatever, whoop-de-whoop. Everything is interesting. Science is interesting. Math is interesting. Just regular literature, all of that stuff is interesting. School would be interesting if they made it interesting. But they don't make it interesting. They want you to check out. Nah, man, when you see these young people, you know what I'm saying? Like, they got senioritis in elementary school. I didn't catch that till like 9th grade, bro. And then I'm sure the more years we spent out of school, it went from 9th grade to 7th grade to 6th grade to now these kids don't care about anything, man. And I don't blame them, because the stuff that they're teaching them in school is already out. It's outdated.
They're probably giving them the same standardization that they gave us.
It's worse. Well, yeah, literally the same, which makes it worse because times have moved so much.
Because it was over 20 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah. It's like, wow, y'all doing that? Or they make them do all these extra steps at math that are completely unnecessary. Completely unnecessary. So don't get me started on the school system. So, but the point I'm making here is that Juelz is a person that's been failed by this same system, which is why he doesn't trust it, which is why he thinks that there's other ways to getting it than what they're giving you in school. So I hear his point, but it's dangerous because it's not true. Reading is actually fun. Reading is actually very useful. And it's a skill that, honestly, once you get it developed and it becomes a part of you, it doesn't go anywhere. It's literally riding a bike. But the school system, I believe it creates anxieties and all kinds of pressures towards reading. If you fall behind 1 year, 2 years, or whatever, it's a snowball effect. And Juelz was probably in that boat. And so he's like, to hell with it. It served me no purpose. And look where I'm at. I guess that's a good thing. And look where I'm at. And, other kids need to do the same, but I'm not for it. He sounds like a person that's been failed by the system. So of course he's going to say something like this. And I would just tell everybody out there, man, that school system, you're sending your kid off to school, and, not maybe y'all, but people send their kids off to school and they get mad that their kid isn't either developing the right way or whatever. That's not the school's responsibility. That is the parents' responsibility. And the school is literally a daycare center. So, don't expect the schools to educate you, man. And so that's why the reading is what it is. The scores are what they are. The math is what it is. Like, everything's bad, and the reason being is it's intentional. So yeah, man, I'm sorry, Juelz. I'm sorry you feel that way, man, or anybody else that feels that way. I'm sorry you feel that way, but I can't rock with this. I'm not against any form of education, especially reading.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff that they made us read in high school and middle school, I gained a greater appreciation for as an adult. But
Right.
I think, but as a kid, they got to come up off that stuff. Like, give children things that they would actually want to read. Like,
Right.
stop forcing kids to read Mark Twain all day. Like,
I want to hear about that.
Yeah, it's silly, but that's a part of what you're referring to as standardization.
You're right.
Which is the problem with education. I can't speak for other countries, but I do in this country. That's the problem with education, is that it's standardized with the intent to meet the needs of as many people as possible. And in an effort to do that, you fail a lot of people to whom it doesn't meet those needs.
Yeah.
I would even argue that it fails the majority of kids, because you're going to have that 10% or 15% who are going to be able to thrive in that environment. But by the most part, comprehension is a very selective individual process, and you have to curate it based upon the individual sensibilities of the student. But you can't do that when there's so many people that you have to take care of. And so you standardize everything. And all that ends up happening is that you just create, crash outs. And people are, and literally, like, all you end up doing is creating crash outs and funneling the vast majority of the people into perpetual employment, where they'll just be spending, where they will just be spending their money for the rest of their lives. So it is what it is. The education system is definitely one of those sensitive areas, but I think that it's like this by design. I think that, it's one, like, people tend to think that it fails a lot of kids because of its inherent inadequacies in the way that it's structured. I don't think those inadequacies are not intentional, is my point. I believe the inadequacies are purposefully instituted and maintained that way, because I think the idea of the education system is to funnel people into the systems of employment and labor so that they can continue to keep the calibration of capitalism moving via spending all the money that they earn every time they receive their inadequate income, either semi-monthly or every 2 weeks. I think that's the purpose of school at this point. And it's unfortunate, but there is a way to chart a path forward. And I can't just summarily dismiss reading as a skill. I still think that it's necessary and it is fundamental. It just has to be targeted and intentional.
Yeah, I agree, man. So yeah, Santana, sorry, bro. I can't stand behind this. But again, he sounds like somebody that was failed by this very system that we're talking about. So of course that's going to be his worldview. And there's a lot of other people that I'm sure that they might not be as loud and as vocal that also agree with his take 100%. And again, those are people that were failed by this system. So But yeah, there's nothing wrong with having skills in life, period. So to say that a skill is unnecessary, you're not gonna be successful in the game of life. So I can't go for that.
Most people are failed by this system. Most
Mhm.
people.
Mhm.
That the I don't know, the 60 to, depending on the source that you're looking at it from, the 70 to 85% of the population that's considered working class were failed by this system. And that's the vast majority of the people. And the 10 to 15% of those who reside above that median level of being working class, those are the individuals who weren't failed by it. And even if you pierce that apart, I'm pretty sure there's a decent percentage of those people who would have been failed by it if they were left up to the mercy of it. They just weren't left up to the mercy of it because they were in an advantageous position, either because they were born into the right family or because they got very lucky at some point and came into some kind of inheritance. I don't know, won the lottery. Something happened along the way, which represents an outlier to this particular equation. But beyond that, and beyond being born into an environment in which you're too big to fail because you're born into the right family or something of that nature, everybody's failed by this thing. The 80 to 85% of the world's population that is working class is failed by this. If you are a laborer, an employee, a worker, and you live paycheck to paycheck, you're failed by this system, and that's the vast majority of people.
Yeah, I agree, bro. No objections there, man. Hey, I would shout out Juelz. Normally I would, but I can't shout him out after a take like that, man. So I guess shout out to Dipset minus Jim Jones. So
Yeah, I just don't agree with that. I'll be damned if I'm going to rely on someone else reading something to me. Like, how do I know you're not screwing me over by reading something that's not actually there? I can't trust that.
I mean, that's like literally being you're in a whole nother country, and you don't know the language. It's kind of like, and you're depending on whoever's reading the whatever to tell you whatever it is. So you can understand what they're saying, but you can't read anything that they're writing. And then you go, "Hey, bro, what does this say over here?" And it says, "Oh yeah, you're due $1 million." But the guy says, "It says you get about $500." And you go, "Wow, $500? Wow, I'll take it." And it's like, "Yeah, man, you're not, now you're out of $1 million." So it just pays to know. Now, of course, it's English, and I'm pretty sure he can fumble his way around to know that it's actually $1 million. But again, man, when you're dealing with high level stuff, you telling about people having business literacy and having business backgrounds and stuff like that, you're going to be dealing with sharks that can take advantage of the fact that you're not willing to do that. So yeah, not a fan of it, bro. It's a half-baked take, I would say.
Yeah. I'm willing to meet him halfway, but I can't go all the way because that to me is insane. You're literally depending on others to interpret information for you. And you're just going to get taken advantage of at every point. So
Mhm.
I can't agree with that.
Yep.
And now we move on to, speaking of systems that fail people. Now we move on to this situation involving Campbell's, the company behind all the different soup variations that you find in every grocery store. There was a bad crisis management situation that they had to clean up when a former executive was recorded saying that the meat in their soup is made with a 3D printer. So this was a lot of bad press from Campbell's. They had to do a lot of damage control with this. And this individual who was recorded saying this has since been fired from the company. But, I would say that the damage was already done. But this says Campbell's fired the VP recorded saying its meat came from a 3D printer. Campbell says it fired its vice president of information technology after leaked audio allegedly captured him saying the company uses meat that came from a 3D printer. The comments led Campbell's to issue an explanation on its website, insisting its soups aren't made with 3D printed chicken, lab-grown chicken, or bioengineered meat. A recent video contained false comments about our ingredients. The comments heard on the recording about our food are not only inaccurate, they are absurd. We do not use lab-grown chicken or any form of artificial or bioengineered meat in our soups. It adds that the company only uses chicken from reputable suppliers in the U.S. that meet USDA standards. The audio was released as part of a lawsuit filed against Campbell by a former employee who claims to have recorded a conversation with IT VP Martin Bally. During the conversation, the person purported to be Bally makes racist remarks while calling Campbell's food bioengineered and for poor people. Even in a can of soup, I look at it and look at bioengineered meat. I don't want to eat an effing piece of chicken that came from a 3D printer. Do you? Campbell's later updated its statement to say that it believes the voice on the recording is in fact Martin Bally, adding that he is no longer employed by the company as of November 25th. 3D printed chicken isn't entirely something out of a sci-fi movie. KFC, which has had to deal with its own chicken-related conspiracies, said it was working with a Russian firm in 2020 to develop a way to print lab-grown chicken nuggets using chicken cells and plant material. Just as families across the U.S. were heading into Thanksgiving weekend and stocking up on Campbell staples, a leaked audio recording landed online of a company vice president mocking Indian workers, calling customers poor people, and claiming its soups contained bioengineered or 3D meat. The timing was combustible. A brand associated with holiday comfort was suddenly overshadowed by a senior leader's contemptuous voice directed at the very people who buy and make its products. Campbell confirmed the recordings believed authenticity and removed the executive from his role. Several elements of the story emerged through a lawsuit filed by cybersecurity analyst Robert Garza, who alleges he told his manager about the comments in January, was discouraged from reporting them, and was later terminated. Campbell's disputes that timeline, saying it first learned of the lawsuit months later and heard only segments of the audio on November 20th. Regardless of how those details are adjudicated, once the recording went public, the question shifted from one executive's conduct to the organization's ability to confront issues before they escalate. That, in my opinion, is the least problematic part of this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think about this mess with Campbell's and this guy saying that it's 3D printed meat, and then Campbell's trying to clean it up?
You know, I was yeah, of course, you know, just in time for the holiday season. And honestly, bruh, you know, hearing him say that, you know, I said to myself, I said, well, a lot of execs feel that way about their products that they're out here selling to the poors, you know. And so the fact that he was talking about he don't want no chicken that came out of a 3D printer. Now, 3D printed food is a thing. Back when I was really on Instagram, and this was back in, you know, 2017. You know, I saw these clips floating around, and them trying to do like positive spin on 3D printed steaks or something like that. And so the article mentioned that, you know, some firm in Russia or whatever trying to make the, you know, nuggets or whatever. But, you know, the research on this is a thing. Like, they actually pump this stuff out. So does Campbell's actually have it? Now, of course, Campbell say no, they don't. But the point is that there's fake food out here. And, you know, before this whole thing went down, I told you, man, when I had went to Zaxby's last month, this is before that. And I'm sitting there eating. I was like, what is this? This ain't no chicken. I mean, straight out of a laboratory. Did I finish it? Of course. I spent like $9 on that plate or something crazy. I was not going to let that go to waste. All right. But from there on out, man, I have not been buying chicken. I have not been buying chicken. Like, you know, I will go, I stopped buying it from HEB. All right. And then I started going to Sprouts and Whole Foods. That was decent for a little while. But now the ones from Sprouts and Whole Foods are looking like the ones at HEB, you know, really shredded, really wet. You know, cuts weird, smells like a carcass. Now, am I eating a carcass? I am. But they don't have to smell like one. I mean, it smells like it's decaying. And so, yeah, man. So cleaning it and everything, bro, it's just a mess nowadays. So I don't even bother with chicken at this point. Just extremely turned off by it. And I had Campbell soup. I want to say C19 time. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't feeling good, so I just got a can of Campbell's, you know, to hug me in my moment of not feeling well. And the noodles were never really. No, they were back in the day. The noodles were, you know, they were nice, and the chicken was chicken. I don't know what the hell that was that I was eating. I threw the other cans away, and so this was in 2020. So I say all that stuff to say is that the article said they get it from reputable sources and they're not 3D printed. Okay. And they're not grown in some lab. Like I didn't say, nobody said lab or anything like that, but for them to be using these buzzwords, it's something going on here where they're not using top quality stuff, if the real thing at all. So I don't think Campbell's is the only one. I don't think KFC is the only one. I think this is every fast food chain. I think this is every grocery store where they're selling us like fake things and they're selling us fake meats. So, yeah, man, I personally have taken a stand on buying some of this stuff. And I think that this expands beyond Campbell's. I think there's a lot of people putting fake stuff, fake everything, which explains a lot of the health issues that people are having out here nowadays. So all in all, not surprised. I think a lot of VPs feel this way. He just got caught doing it. And I'm pretty sure there's others in the room that are, you know, for sure going to get into some level of damage control, but they shared the same sentiments. They just didn't get recorded. But what are your thoughts, man, on Campbell's getting outed for allegedly selling people 3D printed chickens? What are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, I don't. If they say that they aren't doing that, fine, whatever. Here's what I do know. I am 39 years old. I have very vivid memories of buying certain types of foods via the same brands. The brands have not changed. It's the same brand, same packaging, same everything. I have vivid memories of buying a particular kind of food when I was 10, 11, 15, 20 years old, in which the contents of the food look drastically different now compared to the way it looked when I was younger. Things are smaller, they weigh less. It just doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't seem you can't. My point in saying this is it's not the same. Now, how do you explain to me why it isn't the same? If it isn't artificial, if it's still natural, if it's still all of these things, then explain to me why a lot of this stuff from a physical standpoint, texture-wise, and a lot, doesn't look the same.
Right.
You know, explain that to me. That's all I want to know. I do believe that a lot of this stuff is being pumped and dumped via mass production means in order to be able to just feed people. And I don't think that it's being made in the same manner that it used to be made before. And as technology continues to advance, I don't believe we're using the same means of technology to produce this stuff. So if we're using advanced technology to churn this stuff out at a faster rate, I am inclined to believe that there's some sort of artificiality that is going on at some point in the process of the manufacture of this stuff. You can't convince me otherwise. Now, do I have proof that it's being made with a 3D printer? No, but I do know ground beef and ground chuck from Publix look drastically different when I was 12 years old compared to the way it looks now.
And
Way different.
It tastes different.
Yeah, it's just not. It just doesn't look the same. So, it is what it is, man. It reminds me of Doug. Remember Doug, the mystery meat?
Yeah.
That's what it reminds me of. They go to school, and every other episode they go to the cafeteria and they wonder what they was gonna eat for lunch, and they would slap the mystery meat on the tray.
Yes.
And Doug was always like, "Oh, more mystery meat."
Yeah.
I feel like we're just eating mystery meat nowadays, bro. It's crazy, and you can say what you want. I do know this. Life is expensive. The cost of everything is going up. The cost of goods and services goes up. At this point, it just seems like it's happening every other month, let alone every year. And so despite all of these increases in the cost of freight and manufacturing and equipment and labor, for them to still be able to comfortably afford to sell you a can of soup for less than $1, suggests to me that the ingredients in that can of soup are being made at a piecemealed rate, so much so that you can still churn a profit, despite the fact that you're selling these cans of soup for $1.
Yep.
So, the math to me just isn't mathing, because the price of everything goes up, yet a can of SpaghettiOs still costs $1.05. And, I'll actually look this up so that I'm not saying anything inaccurate, but you can still go to the grocery store right now and load up on Campbell's chicken noodle soup, and it's not going to break the bank.
Right.
So what is going on with the production of this stuff to explain why it's that cheap? You're not looking out for people and making it affordable. Don't feed me any of that, because I don't believe it. Your revenue, you are all about your money, just like every other corporate entity is about their money. So don't sell me that, because I'm not going to believe that. There must be something in your formula which suggests that you can afford to sell it at that dirt cheap of a price and still churn a profit, which means that whatever is going on inside that can is cheap enough for you to be able to make that happen.
Yep.
So until somebody can adequately explain that to me, whether it's a 3D printer or not, all I know is it's not the same.
It ain't the same. Nothing tastes good right now. I mean, absolutely nothing. I've noticed a change in produce in the last 3 years.
Oh my God, absolutely.
The last 3 years, produce ain't even hitting like how it used to. Like, what is going on here? Things aren't breaking down like how they used to. Like, things are strange right now. Everything's mystery. So nah, man, like, I mean, it behaves so weird, things used to be consistent. You buy the bananas here, they go bad there, but you buy the avocados, forget about it, bro. Like, I found a good algorithm to get the better textured ones, but even though the textures are better, it still tastes like water. It don't taste like anything anymore. Everything is in the pits. I'm seasoning the hell out of my food nowadays because nothing tastes right. And it's rapid, and it's really has been on a rapid decline over the last 3 to 4 years. I mean, it is just disgusting. So you bring up a good point about the affordability of Campbell's. And I also would say that traditionally with like fast food chains, especially whenever they would have their promos and they're selling this for that, but shrinkflation is really taking over the fast food industry. So it kind of starting to make sense why they're only charging you this much for some of those stuff. because they made things smaller.
Yes.
And you can't, the days of you getting in there and getting out of there and spending $7 on a value meal are over.
Yeah.
So honestly, you're paying a lot more for a lot less from these places. So things aren't really worth it anymore. So, and restaurants the quality of restaurant stuff. Now you're always getting industrial things. You was always getting industrial butters, industrial oils, and all that other stuff. But I mean, the last time I went to Outback, I'm not going back.
Yeah.
Last time I went to Outback and I got my little chicken on a Barbie thing. You know what I'm saying? And my chicken didn't have no Barbie on it. And it was small as hell. I was like, I'm not spending a dub on this no more. This used to be worth it. So yeah, man. Campbell's getting outed on this. I guess that just put a feather in the cap for a lot of people that were already on the fence about it. But I think everybody has noticed the quality of food has gone in the toilet.
Yeah.
I mean, you really don't even feel nourished after eating some of this stuff anymore.
You feel worse.
You feel worse. Especially, like I said, sometimes I'm eating straight up produce and it don't hit the same. My body still feel low key sluggish.
Yeah, tired. Yep, fatigued.
I don't know what's going on, man. That ain't my age. I'm still kind of spry out here.
That's right.
I'm not buying that. It's the food. So yeah, man. I don't know if any other companies are going to get outed, but people have already taken to the streets and boycotting all Campbell's associated things. I looked at the list. I guess I was already banning them. But yeah, man, I would just stay away from that company because at least we know about them. But if you get sketched out by other stuff, I would also say avoid those things too, man. Try to buy the cleanest food you can get, whether it's meat or produce. And if that takes you to a farmer's market or whatever, man, the game has become, can you afford to be healthy?
Correct. Yes.
And you have to separate yourself on what you buy for food. So you don't break down like everybody else will eventually with all of this garbage we're eating nowadays. So y'all be safe out there and prioritize your money towards food, man. It's crazy.
Yeah. So it looks like, because I haven't eaten this stuff in years, looks like a can of classic chicken noodle by Campbell's is like $3 a can. Now, granted, this is at Publix where
shopping is a pleasure, I'm sure. Yeah, right, man.
It looks like it's a little cheaper at Walmart, like $1.39.
Go to the Dollar General, see what they charge, and the Dollar General still gonna charge you $2.50.
Yeah, no, man, it's not. Produce is the math. It's like I said, bro. The math just doesn't math. When I was a child, I have vivid memories as a child of having a bunch of bananas in the house.
Mm-hmm.
And those bananas over the course of maybe a couple of weeks would eventually rot because of how ripe they became.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I like fruit. I've always liked fruit. And so I try to maintain a healthy amount of fruit in my diet, not too much because of the sugar content, which is a whole other conversation. Mm-hmm. But at this point, I can't buy more than 4 bananas at a time. Like the maximum amount of bananas that I'll buy at one time right now is 4, because in 3 days, they're brown as hell.
Mm-hmm.
Can't even eat them anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That's not normal. Like naturally grown bananas in season don't go rotten in 3 days. That just doesn't happen.
Right.
So like it's just weird stuff going on with this. Yeah, the produce to me is the easiest way to see it, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Buy some of these fruits and just watch it. It's rotten in 2 days. Like
strawberries, bro.
Yeah. It's like what's going on with this stuff? So yeah, man, this stuff is not. It's not the same. That's the only. I'm not trying to speculate and say what it is. I'm just saying it ain't the same.
Right.
And you can draw your own conclusions, but it ain't the same. Mm-hmm. And I agree with you 1,000%. Being healthy has become an expense.
Yeah.
And what What food manufacturers get away with, in my opinion, is the same thing that every other service provider gets away with. Is we can depend on people who need what we provide, whether it's food, automobiles, / transportation, all of these basic fundamental needs that people have, because so many people are living on the other side of the wealth gap. We can get away with providing a less quality product because people need it so much, but can't afford to get the good stuff, that they'll pay a premium on our bad quality because they have no other choice. Because they can't afford to get the good stuff. And food is lumped into that same category. So you're absolutely right, man. You have to literally invest in buying good food. It's like buying good food has become just as much a part of a person's budget as every other household expense. You know, talking about gas and light bills and water bills, you know, property taxes and all of this other stuff that you have to game plan for in terms of being able to adequately afford without going broke. Food is now on that list too. Because you can't just go to the grocery store anymore. You really don't know what you're buying. So it's like the last refuge has become things like farmers markets. Like I'll just as soon go to an independently owned butcher shop.
No, you're better off at this point.
Like I'm buying this meat from a butcher, but at least I know he's got his own animals back there and he's killing them himself. And they ain't grazing on corn all day. And he's not injecting them with, you know, syringes filled with God knows what. And he's just letting them grow on his own, and then he chops them up and then sells me the meat. I just as soon do that now before I go and buy this prepackaged meat because I don't know what I'm getting. So yeah, bro, you really do have to invest in food. It's become an investment. It's scary stuff, man, but it is what it is. Like survival these days has become a matter of, can you afford to do it? And you used to believe that food wasn't a part of that equation, because why would food become that basic of a need in terms of it's a survival mechanic. Either I can afford to do this or I can't. Like intrinsically, we can process that when it comes to luxury stuff. Like, can I afford a fancy car? Can I afford to go on vacation halfway across the world? Or can I afford to do this or that when it comes to indulging in luxury stuff? And people have always been able to intrinsically calculate, can't afford to do that. I gotta be able to pay my bills. Well, now food is also a part of that. Can I afford to get real produce, real meat? And if you can't, you need to figure out a way to be able to add it into the budget, because otherwise you're buying stuff that you don't exactly know what it's made from. So it's wild.
And you know, and me going to Whole Foods and Sprouts, like I told you, man, that's getting sketchy. So, you know, it's getting to the point where I'm gonna keep doing that, but I can't keep doing that. So, because I went to a farmer market a couple times, I wasn't impressed with what they were selling either. You know, it just looked crazy. I guess I got to get used to the idea of something that's not being grown for aesthetic, I guess. Correct. I mean, I don't know.
It's also gonna smell off too.
Yeah, but you know, whenever I got a damn piece of squash and I'm trying to clean it off, but I can feel all the wax on it. You know what I'm saying? Now, granted, I'm shaving the skin off, but you know, there's wax I know there's wax inside. So I don't know, man. I'm tired, dog. I'm tired, man. Hey, bro, it's a fight every week, man. I swear.
It is, bro. It's way too much to keep up with. It's way too much, man. But you just got to add this to the list because it is a part of it.
Yeah, stay safe out there, man.
Yeah, just think about it, folks. Everything costs money. Everything. The cost of everything is going up, food included. So just think about that meal for 4 that you bought and you only paid $12-15. There's a reason why it was that cheap, because food is not exempt from the laundry list of things that have become more expensive.
Yep.
And so don't take that for granted. Everything costs more, good food included. And if you're running around buying canned goods of stuff and it's $1, $1.30. You know, in nature, that stuff is not that cheap to eat. So, you know, food for thought, no pun intended on that.
Y'all stay safe, y'all.
And now we move on to a friend of the channel. Joy Taylor is indeed a friend of the channel. And Joy Taylor is also not a family woman, or at least she's not one for having a family of her own. So now, you know, Joy Taylor hasn't been shy about this. She doesn't want to have any children. That's not for her. But, you know, she enjoys living vicariously through, you know, the children of her siblings and stuff like that. But in terms of her herself, she's not interested in having kids. Furthermore, she also thinks the idea of having children to preserve legacy is a silly concept. So this was a conversation that went kind of viral, because you'll hear a lot of people talking about wanting to have children so that they can pass on a legacy or to leave a legacy. And Joy Taylor thinks that this is silly. She thinks it's dumb. So this says Joy Taylor argues that procreating to carry on legacy is silly. Joy Taylor has opened up about the future she sees for herself, and it doesn't involve her having kids. In a recent episode of her podcast, Too Personal Show, Taylor and her guest Kendra G discussed the concept of building a legacy by having children. While the sports commentator confessed that she does love children, she said she doesn't want to have them herself. So I'm going to read past the quotes because I'm going to play the video. Earlier this year, the former Fox Sports host sat down with Paul Pierce and Azar Farideh on the Truth After Dark podcast, where she discussed being open to dating elderly men. If you see me pull up with a 70-year-old man, don't ask any effing questions. He's got a plane. I'm doing this for all of us. So there's the streets in Joy Taylor speaking out.
Wow.
So here's her talking with this woman. What's her name again? Kendra G.
Yeah, Kendra G.
So here's Joy Taylor. It's talking with Kendra G, and you know, her espousing on her belief that having children to preserve legacy is a silly idea.
What I'm saying is there are men who will be like, I want to have children, but don't talk about the wife, marriage, family part. Just the like, I need to have kids to carry on my legacy.
Yeah. Well, Nick Cannon is the perfect example of that. You know, he talked about how he had so many kids because what he was going through. So we only use celebrities because everybody knows what we're talking about when we say
but there's plenty of people that do this.
There's plenty of people like that. So there's a lot of men, whether we agree with it or not, that is important to them. Like they want to procreate. They want to have little John and little Kenny and little Tommy. That's very important to them. And obviously it's not that important to Joy.
No, I just don't think that you're starting a legacy. I think you're making humans.
Okay.
There's like a very big difference.
Okay, just for clarity, what would be an example of starting a legacy?
I think legacy is very silly. Like I think the whole concept is silly because I don't think that we as humans have this incredibly elevated God-like mentality of ourselves that we are just going to be remembered for generations and our power is going to get passed on from so on to so forth. And, you know, 5 generations from now, they're going to be talking about, you know, Grandma Joy. They're not going to be talking about you. They don't care.
That's not true.
They're not going to do it. They're not going to do it. What, maybe one person, will say your name in 200 years. Maybe one person will be like, oh, that was so-and-so. And it doesn't matter. That's okay.
But this is where I challenge that. So I think in the big spectrum of things, yes, you're right. But when I think they're talking about legacy, it's about their family unit within their unit, right? So it's not about the world knowing them. It's about grandma's recipe that in our family, grandma is our queen. She's our Beyonce. And
but you got to have a family to do that.
Yeah, you do have the family.
So if you don't have a family, again, you just making little people.
Ooh. So a family is not created unless you're married.
No.
Okay.
No. Again, I think we're talking about 2 different people here. Okay. I'm talking about the person who's just out here populating the earth.
Okay.
Right. Not raising, not putting together a legacy. Like just because you've made a person doesn't mean that you have a legacy.
You're talking about future.
Why you keep putting names on people?
Do you know people in real life?
Do you think I don't?
Let me stop saying names.
And also, it's not about celebrities. There's so many non-celebrities that do this.
This is true. Okay, you're right.
And I have this conversation with men a lot because for whatever reason, I look like a breeder, and people will argue with me about having kids.
Oh yeah, no, you would be a wonderful woman for a man to have kids with.
No, I would be a terrible person to have.
Well,
kids
you don't
with.
want the point I'm making is I understand why a man would want to get you pregnant.
I don't.
Why? Okay, let me break it down. First of all, you're
what? No. Once initially, sure, right. The process seems fun. There's other perks.
No, but
once I've said,
yes,
I don't want children, there couldn't be anything less appealing about me if you are someone who wants children.
No, absolutely. Right. But
however, there's many follow-ups.
Right. Absolutely. But I'm saying the reason of the whys, first of all, to get Joy Taylor pregnant and to say,
all right, that's enough. So you get the idea.
Jesus Christ, bro. Oh my God.
You get the idea. So yeah, so there's Joy Taylor talking about procreating for legacy being silly. There's more in that interview clip, but it's like 4.5 minutes long. So, but you get the general idea there. So do you think there's something to what she said about, it being crazy to have children in order to carry on a legacy? She thinks the concept of legacy is just ridiculous.
I think Joy's definition of legacy is not that of the average everyday person. So Kendra G's she's a funny person to me. She's an interesting internet character. But one thing about her is she's no dummy. So what she was saying, what Kendra G's rebuttal to that was look, I think you know, when people talk about legacy, they more or less talk about family, something immediate, Joy was all the way out there with 200 years from now, people knowing your name, what kind of legacy, what kind of circles of people you're hanging around, I guess it's some 70-year-old guy that has a plane. I guess her Joy's conversations that she's having with these types of people are speaking of legacy loosely, but whenever I heard of legacy, it was generally talked about more or less in line with what Kendra G was saying was just keeping the mojo alive, not just creating good humans to put in a pool of mess, because I'm telling you, the mess will continue to happen. You got to populate the world with good people too. So, just leaving a good mark on the world. So I think Joy's a little off here. I think she's been exposed to too much of that lifestyle.
Sure.
Yeah, for her to be in touch with the average everyday person's idea of what legacy building would be. Now, granted, there's a spectrum to that definition because it's nothing in actual dictionary, but I think the average everyday person is more in line with just having a quality family and you being a part of keeping that quality alive. Now, when it comes to her saying that she doesn't want no kids, hey, listen, fellas, that's out there. Now, I know Joy Taylor has, the peanut butter skin. All right. And those village feeders that she just can't help but to show everybody. But just because she looks that way doesn't mean she wants to actually bear children. And if a woman tells you that she don't want kids, you better believe her.
Please believe her.
Yeah, you better believe her. It is not for the weak. The mother has to be enthused about this before the baby, before conception. She has to be enthused about it. And even then, it's an uphill battle, I'm sure, for some people, because they don't even know how much responsibility it is to be a mom. So if there's a woman who's just completely out on being a mother, being a family woman, run for the hills. There's nothing there for you, unless you're actually in the business of not having any kids or whatever, then y'all can splack out. But any guy that's really trying to convince her, you guys are barking up the wrong tree. So yeah, Joy is entitled to her opinion. I'm sorry she feels that way, but this world is pretty big, man. And there's a lot of people out here that have their own opinions about things, and people are entitled to not want to have kids. And I'm just inclined to believe through life experience that, if somebody doesn't want a child, don't try to force it on them. And especially if it's a woman. But what are your thoughts, man, on Joy Taylor saying that, hey, she's not into all of this legacy building stuff. She actually thinks it's quite stupid. What are your thoughts, bro?
I kind of hear where she's coming from. Then this will probably be one of the rare instances in which I will side with her. I think her experiences are what informs her on this particular concept. Because so I've been watching Joy Taylor going all the way back to when she was like the moderator on Undisputed. So years, there's been like over, I don't know how long, but however long, like 2016, 17-ish, somewhere around there. And she, whenever prompted, has openly talked about her aversion to having children and being a mom. She's been open about the fact that that's not a part of, that's not in her timeline. Like, that's not for her. She has no interest in having children. And yet, despite her being open about that, I would imagine there's still a lot of guys who have tried to pursue a long-term commitment with her. And I would imagine a lot of those guys fancy themselves family men who at some point want to be a father. And so I think where Joy Taylor is coming at it from is people's priorities are messed up. And it isn't I'm somewhat putting words into her mouth, but what I gather from what she's saying is when it comes to like creating families and rearing children, people have messed up priorities. And they will deprioritize being with the right person that is most suitable for cultivating the right kind of environment to raise a family in lieu of getting with somebody that you just want to sleep with, essentially. And I think her experiences therein have informed her on that, because I would imagine that she's met many dudes throughout her time as a single woman who have openly talked about wanting to have children and be a father, and yet she's openly talked about not wanting to be a mom or have children herself, and yet these guys are pursuing her anyway. And so at that point, what does that mean in terms of the fabric of raising children in the right kind of environment? And so I think her overall point is the importance of having kids in the right kind of environment. And for her, paying lip service to the idea of doing it for the purposes of legacy, even though you're not prioritizing cultivating the right kind of environment, does a disservice towards the idea of having children in the first place. Yeah. So I kind of feel like that's the point she was trying to make, but she's coming at it from her own, Joy Taylor in the streets perspective, where, she's also kind of speaking at it from the prism of, I do whatever I want and no one's going to tell me what to do. And just because I'm a woman doesn't mean I'm going to be defined by motherhood and blah, 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 blah. So there's also a tint of neo-progressive women empowerment inherent in her comments too, that are somewhat muddying the waters. But I think at the end of the day, what she is talking about, generally speaking, is people not having the right priorities in place when it comes to having kids. Because I do agree, there are a lot of people out there who are dropping these kids who have no business having children, either because they are ill-equipped financially or morally or any of this other stuff. Emotionally, they're ill-equipped, or because they are otherwise just deprioritizing they're otherwise deprioritizing the right stuff and prioritizing the wrong stuff. So I kind of hear where she's coming from. And, I'm no Joy Taylor fan, but I do think the spirit of, not necessarily that, but I do think that at the end of the day, and you've heard me say this, I respect people who know who they are and they make it known. So what she has to say might not necessarily coincide with my sensibilities, But if she knows that she don't want to be a mom, and she knows that she don't want to have no kids, and she's making it known, I respect that. If you at the end of the day decide that you want to try to sign up for that, despite the fact that you know deep down inside your sensibilities are opposite of that, that's on you, not her. She's letting you know who she is.
Right.
So it's up to you to make the informed decision. And if you choose to opt into that equation, that's on you, not her. So from that standpoint, I kind of really don't see much fault in what she's saying, other than I kind of get the sense that there's a little bit of that, this is what it means to be a woman now, ideology coming through subtly when she talks like that. But moreover, people are prioritizing the wrong stuff these days when it comes to having kids. To the people who care about legacy, but they're doing it in the right way, cultivating the right kind of environment because they have the right kind of priorities, there's no way in the world she's speaking to them. And if she is speaking to them, then she's completely out of pocket for talking like that. But to the lot of those out there who's just out here just having these kids willy-nilly, like it's not really something that's important, or like it doesn't require a significant amount of planning and preparation and meeting of the minds and talking things out and making sure everyone's on the same page. That stuff is important. And I do believe that a lot of that is being left at the wayside by people who are just kind of irresponsibly having children.
Yeah, you bring up a good point, and I think she's more or less talking, and I know it was closer to her own personal experiences, and I related it to her talking to these 70-year-old men that have a plane, which is part of the group, but your explanation also helps me get into the mindset of really where she was coming from, because she doesn't live the life of every average everyday guy or person, I mean, and she wouldn't be talking to an average everyday guy. You know, so she's only talking to these dudes that feel like they're hot shots, that want to have a baby with Joy Taylor for that legacy. Yeah. You know, power couple, baby, and you know, that weird stuff. That is stupid, actually. You know, you are just making another person because there's no connection there. She doesn't feel anything for you, and it'll just be more PR stuff. That is weird. So from that perspective, yeah, but Joy needs to realize who she's talking to. It can come off a little. It's not in touch with reality. That's her reality, I guess, but that's not the reality of the majority of people. That's not the reality of the people that's watching the show, and it's not the reality of the people that support you. You know, that's fans or whatever. That's a unique situation dealing with celebrities. So, you know, Kendra G bringing up celebrities like Future, Cannon, for instance, that we're doing it for that, you know, for the clout and other weird things. So, yeah, if you don't want to have a baby for clout, I understand that. That's completely understandable. But say clout. You know, I guess that would have been easier for me to understand. But using a word like legacy or whatever, people do want to have a legacy for their own personal reasons. There's a bit of selfishness in there, but part of being alive, man, is being selfish to a degree. Self-preservation, that's what people do, man. That's put hand on stove hot, remove hand. You know, it's part of life to want to have self-preservation. And part of that self-preservation for some people is to have more of them replicated. You know, listen, I'm not here talking, all right, on a podcast in 2025. All right. If I didn't have people going on back in the day saying that they wanted to procreate like that, you know, and I'm literally a living reflection of those people. You know, I can go back in the 1500s, you know, see my great or whatever, you know, granddad or whatever, you know, and he got this awkward little pinky toe that I got right now. You know what I'm saying? It's not like a regular, it's like a claw. You know, I ain't got no scary feet, but the point I'm trying to make is I got that from somebody, you know, and I got this way that I see the world and stuff, you know, through stuff, man, through legacy. And so basically what I'm saying about that is that you are your legacy. And so for you to have a child in and of itself, inherent, there's a legacy thing going on there. Now what do you know, what are you going to instill in that child or whatever? That's another thing. But I'm saying is that you are your ancestors, and your ancestors are you. And if you don't want to keep that line going for whatever reason, you're more than entitled to do so. But I think it's a part of self-preservation, a part of the whatever is going on down here, is that people want to they want to keep the replication process alive. So some people don't want that, and that's fine. But for the people that's out there that want to do that and have their legacy continue and whatever, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that it's a normal thing. So for her to call it stupid, but because of her narrow worldview, I think is, it can come off as dangerous rhetorics.
Yeah.
So, but I hear your point, but this is not, this isn't an everybody thing. This is more or less Joy Taylor's a TV baddie, and she's encountering other quote unquote high level men. Right. And they want to, cross pollinate for clout. And that is weird. So if that's where Joy's coming from, I agree with that. But the standard everyday stuff that everybody else has to deal with, the vast majority of the world's population, they just want to keep that gift alive of having somebody else being able to enjoy life. If you want to call that what we're doing right now is enjoying.
Yeah. Maybe, well, she doesn't really have to concern herself with the responsibility of carrying on her family legacy because she has siblings with children and she has nieces and nephews. That's so true. She's kind of relieved of duty from that standpoint. And then, so it kind of makes maintaining this kind of mentality easier when you don't shoulder some of the responsibility for carrying it, for carrying along the bloodline. Mm-hmm. Also, her coming from a sports background, I wonder if some of this is semantic sensitivity. Like, I wonder if she just has a strong aversion to the word legacy because, legacy has become an overused, exhausted word. Yeah. Especially within a sports context. Every time somebody does something, it's always like, what does this mean for this person's legacy? The word itself has become overused. It's ridiculous. Agreed. And so maybe I wonder if throughout that conversation, if you replace the word legacy with tradition, if she would have said the same thing. Because I'm wondering if maybe she just has an issue with that word. Because because how these days people do take issue with words. And so I don't know, maybe she feels some type of way about the word legacy because of how overwrought and overused it is. Because at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with a person desiring to maintain a certain modicum of tradition. And the only way that you can keep that going is by creating future generations. If you don't create future generations, then it just dies. It just stops. So that to me is reasonable. But where I will side with her is, in my opinion, there are a lot of people these days. There's a lot of people out here. People in general need to stop having children. And that's not on no Darwinism population. Yeah, like that. People need to stop having kids out here, and that's not on some Darwinism population control stuff. That's on some way too many people in society are engaging in sexual irresponsibility. And the result of this sexual irresponsibility is children being reared in weird, compromised environments.
Yes.
Where they grow up and they become unproductive contributors to society.
Yes.
So a lot of people with the wrong head on their shoulders and the wrong priorities do need to stop having kids. And I would imagine you do have some of these people who have the wrong priorities will talk about wanting to drop more jits for legacy purposes. And those people are doing the concept of legacy a strong disservice. I remember the last thing I'll say, I remember when I used to live in Tallahassee before I moved back home, the barbershop that I went to, there was a receptionist that used to work at the front desk at the barbershop. And she was, an around the way girl. And
Okay.
she would openly talk about how many different baby daddies she was going to have.
She was going to have.
She anticipated, like, you would have to have been there to hear her talk. But I'm trying to sum it up as best I can. But basically, she would, in casual conversations, talk in such a way in which she was anticipating having multiple children by multiple guys. It was an anticipation that she had.
Yikes.
And so my thing is, like, hearing her speak like this so casually, she kind of knew before she even had her first child what was set before her, being a multiple baby mama. And I would imagine she comes from an environment in which that was around her, multiple women who were multiple baby mamas. And so that's the kind of thing that needs to stop. And so from that standpoint, it is very counterproductive to have children under those circumstances, under the pretense that you're doing it for legacy and doing it to carry on whatever it is that you intend to carry on, because these kids need to be reared in the right kind of cultivated environments. So from that standpoint, I hear where she's coming from. Legacy is something that doesn't need to be factored into the equation when you're talking about one's motivation for having children. If that's what you're out here doing, is willfully engaging in this glorified sexual irresponsibility.
Yeah, that's fair, man. I think what needs to happen is that, which we're not going to get, but we really need like a definite, like a dictionary for all of these online terms that are being used, because yeah, man, things can get a little convoluted. Because is she talking about regular legacy? Is she talking about some weird stuff that she's encountering with her celebrity friends? Or like who the hell knows? But I would say this: I don't walk around talking legacy. Like I don't use those terms. I mean, me personally, I don't go, yeah, this is for my legacy. Yeah, whatever with that, man.
I really think that she was triggered by that word because of her profession. I think because even in sports, that word is so overused, and so I think I'm guessing that I'm guessing that she has an aversion to, the implementation of that word, because it is an overuse. People are using that word way too much nowadays.
And that's why in her example, she was going off on that tangent, talking about some people gonna know your name. Like, that's not why the average everyday person is doing it. That's part of the conversations that you having with your little celebrity friends, where they are whatever. And that's not important, actually. It's a drop in the bucket, like, in the grand scheme of things. But, like I started off with, man, I think the best way of putting it is just putting good people in the world, and being responsible for putting good people in the world and good energy in the world. Because there's people out here that should not be having kids, as you mentioned. And unfortunately, a lot of those offspring are going to end up, like you said, not being productive to society, which means is that society, for the most part, if it's not being productive, is only going in the other direction. So for you to offset that, combat that, by putting good vibes in the world, I think that's kind of important, personally. So now, granted, everybody's got their own worldviews, but yeah, man, I think that for the people that are capable, the people that do want to have kids for whatever reasons, and you do consider yourself a contributing member of society, and you want to have a family, it doesn't hurt to put good people in the world.
It doesn't. No.
Yeah. So, but Joy is completely removed for whatever reason. She doesn't want that for whatever reasons, and believe her. And because I'm telling you, if she were to have a kid, it might end up being one of those people that's not contributing to society. Yeah. So the fact that she's self-aware and not wanting to do that, great, Save that for the people that actually want to actually make the world better.
I don't really think that she would even let it get to that point.
No, she would. She would use her women's rights.
That is correct. Yeah. That is correct. I feel very comfortable saying that she is a pro-choice advocate.
Yeah, pro-choice. She was pro-choice that was straight to the clinic. So
she may have, and who knows? She's probably done it already. So,
hey, man, you know, it'd be like that, man. And by the way, fun fact, man, that baby never leaves if she did it. As soon as that baby DNA gets to rolling, that always stays in the mama, which I didn't know about. But so that baby ends up being a party anyway, even if you decide to exercise your woman's rights. So hey, who knows, Joy? But yeah, man, shout out to Joy Taylor, man. I'm a fan of the Taylor family, man, because Jason's over at my Hurricanes. He played for the Dolphins. Every time I take digs at Joy, I feel like I'm taking, jabs at Jason, man. It ain't like that, Jason. You know what I'm saying? Your sister just be making news, bro.
Yeah. She is a friend of the channel, though. Can't take that away from her.
Yeah, go Canes, man. Go Dolphins. Man.
Okay, and now we got Plaqueboy Max, by the way, friend of the channel. Plaqueboy Max is a friend of the channel.
Yeah.
And Plaqueboy Max is currently engaged in an online back and forth with a woman who I didn't know existed.
Correct.
Well, I did not know who this woman was, but then again, she's a former America's Next Top Model. That shocks to no one that I've never seen a single minute of that show. I don't even know if that show still comes on. But apparently, Plaqueboy Max was out in the streets doing his thing, trying to promote his music, I think, or several other endeavors. And this woman pulled up on him, saw what he was doing, and decided to get into a little, mini social media collaboration with him to give him the opportunity to promote his stuff. At some point during this mini collaboration, she said something which suggested that she was looking for a kiss from Mr. Max, and Mr. Max declined. Apparently, this woman told Plaqueboy Max to not use the footage in question here, but that footage went viral, and now she's throwing dirt all over this guy's name on the internet and talking about going to court and all kind of stuff. And Plaqueboy Max is coming back saying, hey, look, man, all I did was refuse a kiss. It ain't that serious. It's all love, but I don't know what your deal is with all of this unfeeling that you're doing. So this woman's name here is named Kenya Hill. Again, never heard of this woman before this situation. But this says, I didn't want to kiss you. Plaqueboy Max responds to Kenya Hill's threat of legal action. Twitch streamer Maxwell Plaqueboy Max has responded to American actress and model Kenya Hill's threat of legal action, saying that he didn't want to kiss her. For context, Kenya Hill has appeared on Plaqueboy Max's recent in real live stream, during which he had requested that people vote for him for the Streamer Awards 2025 and the Grammy Awards. While recording their Instagram story, the former America's Next Top Model contestant said, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to play the video so y'all will be able to see the video. The former FaZe Clan member refused, and the video of their altercation went viral on X. Kenya Hill eventually shared a series of Instagram stories expressing her displeasure with Plaqueboy Max for using footage of their interaction. She also threatened him with legal action. During a live stream on November 23rd, 2025, Plaqueboy Max responded to Kenya Hill's threat of legal action. So here is, we're going to get the whole juicy grapes situation lined up for everybody. Mm-hmm. So here's the initial situation here.
Hi, I'm sorry, but I'm from America's Next Top Model, and I don't know who you are, but you're out here talking about Black excellence.
Yes.
What are you promoting?
So I'm a streamer,
Wait, hold on. All right, let me go back to the beginning, because when you full screen it, everything goes out of focus. So I'm going to back it up, and we'll just look at the embed on the webpage.
Hi, I'm sorry, but I'm from America's Next Top Model, and I don't know who you are, but you're out here talking about Black excellence.
Yes.
What are you promoting?
So I'm a streamer, I also make music. I don't know if you know who Fred Again is and Skepta. I have a song nominated for a Grammy with them, Victory Lap.
Really?
Yes. And I am nominated for Streamer of the Year. Music streamer, best stream series, best stream
How do I
collab.
support you?
Right here, support Black business. What's your name?
Should I put you on my stories right
Yes,
now?
yes, yes. You
Support
should.
your Black business?
100%.
We're here with
Plaqueboy Max. Plaqueboy Max. Y'all know what time it is. All platforms.
all platforms. You
Make
gotta
sure y'all
support
vote.
him.
Oh, upside down. Make sure y'all vote. Vote. Exercise the right MLK fought for. Vote.
Period.
All platforms. Grammys.
Okay, bro, for that, bro.
I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't. I'm sorry. I can't.
You know what?
I can't. Love though. I'm out. Oh my God. What the fuck is happening?
And you guys were filming stuff obnoxiously with every single person who recognized him. I don't even know this guy. I literally am running an empire right now and have no clue who I don't have X and don't even have the time to log in and sign up. So I walked up to you after his little outburst. He probably don't even date Black women. But I said to you guys very clearly, please don't use that footage. And I don't know what collegiate level you guys are at, if you guys went to college or whatever. But I asked you not to use that footage. Not only did you use the footage, but out of everybody there, you talked to a lot of people. We heard you a mile away. That was the only footage that you used. And I verbally told you not to use it. I have so many things going on right now that I don't have time to take you to court, but I dare you. I dare you to try me, because now you are taking up my time. This 3 minutes that it's taken to post this, I could have been making money.
So your new fame, his Instagram, I don't even know who gave him the idea. Do you know the connotation behind the word plaque? And I don't know if this is maybe a different kind of plaque that you're talking about. Maybe it's a different one. But the first thing I thought of, because I don't think he has any real plaques, was plaque on your teeth. Okay. You maybe want to understand the connotation and the vibration that certain words carry through society. I don't give a damn about who you think you are or any of your followers. But he walked away from me so disrespectfully. And it doesn't matter about America's Next Top Model. You don't ever depart from a real woman in that nature. Ever.
What?
You played yourself. Good luck with that Grammy. Good luck. I really genuinely hope you get it, because that's probably going to be the height of everything that you get. But that's not none of my business.
Wow.
It's between you and God.
God damn.
Bro, that was 2 minutes of nails on a chalkboard.
Oh my goodness.
Here, we'll go ahead. We'll play what Plaqueboy Max's response was. So here's Plaqueboy Max responding.
Ain't no sense. You want me to kiss you on your cheek because you saw it was lit. You saw it was getting nominated for shit. You wanted to steal my cameraman. I didn't want to kiss you, and then after I didn't want to kiss you, now you're threatening to sue me. What the fuck are we talking about? Convo is over. There's no arrogance. There's no nothing. Love to you and your family or whatever you got going on. But shit, I didn't want those cheeks. I didn't want those lips. I wasn't trying to do that. Shout out to you. That's all it takes. That's it. That's all. All right. Anyways, guys, we off.
Okay. As of this writing, Kenya Hill has not commented on Plaqueboy Max's response. So yeah, she was like, "Am I gonna get a smooch or something like that?" And Plaqueboy Max was like, No, I'm sorry, I can't do that. And then he walked away. And lo and behold, all of a sudden, she didn't want that footage to be shared. And now she's talking about taking him to court. Go ahead. The floor is yours.
Hey, bro. Damn. Hey, listen, man. I have never heard of this young lady. Now, I don't know about America's Next Top Model. I don't know if she was just a candidate or if she won, but I was calling her, and it's not fair, but I was calling her America's Next Top Jawline. And I was saying, like, look, bro, he probably didn't want to kiss her on the cheek because he didn't want to get cut by them sharp ass I'm sharp as Juelz. I don't know what's going on. The delusion she lives in is next level. I know I used to take, I didn't like being rejected when I shot my shot, and every guy for the most part, they don't like it, but you just, hey man, next play, bro. Next play. She shot her shot, whether she knew or didn't know who he was. I agree with Plaqueboy in the sense of, hey, you see that he's lit though. You know what I'm saying? So even if you don't know him, you see that he's lit though. I mean, he's got a Grammy nominated thing. He's going up for Streamer of the Year. He's got all these people and bright lights around him. Like, maybe this guy is somebody, And she shot her shot and fell flat on her jaw. And so now that everybody sees this, you know what I'm saying, she feels embarrassed. So now she said, I told you not to play this. And it's like, well, it was a live stream. So he can't, it's a live stream. So I don't know what she's talking about for him not to play it. It was literally recording as they were doing it live. So I don't know what her deal is. She just couldn't take the rejection. So much so that she started crashing out. Multiple videos, using all kinds of slander to besmirch his character. Anything to help herself feel better about just getting turned down. Yeah, you just asked for a kiss. He said no, and he walked away. And last thing I'll say, you don't know why he said no. You just know he said no in a way that you didn't care for and walked away. But I'm looking at the comment section on TikTok and stuff, and people are saying like, hey man, he got a girlfriend. You know what I'm saying? Like, he got a girlfriend. And so if the girlfriend's watching the stream or the streets are gonna post it later or whatever, that he kissing some top model girl, why he supposed to be streaming, that might be some issues at home. So he avoided it. So you don't even know why he said no. You just know he said no to you. And now all of a sudden it's World War III. So, hey, listen, lady, learn how to take some rejection in your life. Not everybody's going to think you're the top model, and that's okay. So, yeah, man, I think that this is just a life lesson for her, honestly. And I'm with Plaqueboy with this. He didn't want anything to do with that. He didn't do anything wrong. So I hope she feels better now, because she was just talking some wild stuff. But what are your thoughts, man, on Miss Top Model here getting turned down by Plaqueboy and now upset about it, threatening to take legal action?
That whole listening to her talk was absolute nails on a chalkboard. She, we don't have such a thing, but if we did, she'd be on it like a conscious approach blacklist. People who are just on the blacklist, persona non grata.
Yeah.
People who need to just be thrown in the gulag and just never listen to again. It's a mighty achievement to be able to get put on that list.
Mm-hmm.
Previously, I had never heard of you. But this to me was just so disgusting. With every syllable that she uttered, I almost threw up in my mouth. She and see, first of all, so there's a couple of layers here. First of all, she comes from a celebrity entertainer, America's Next Top Model world. These types of women make their money off of the perception of their desirability.
Yes.
The moment that the shroud of desirability goes away, they're less viable in the market. The viability of their career dissipates to a certain degree. So it is harmful to the longevity and viability of her career to be perceived even remotely as undesirable. And when a streamer who is as popular as this kid refuses a kiss from you, it could be interpreted as your relative level of undesirability. So it stands to reason, because of the world that she comes from, her business being inherent in her desirability, that kind of content works against her best interest, because it somewhat paints the picture that in some respects she's lacking in desirability. The point overall is get over it. You're the one that tethered yourself to a life in which you have to stay desirable in order to be viable. That's a you problem. That's not the world's problem. Furthermore, Kevin Samuels used to say, when women are confronted with undesirable outcomes, instead of maintaining accountability, they will blame, shame, and deflect. Those are the three words that he used to use. He used to say, here go women with the blame and the shame and deflecting tactics. And because she was a wounded dog, she had to resort to blaming, shaming, and deflecting. So now, because this guy stood on his own form of business and didn't give you what you asked for, and you feel some type of way, now you want to talk about his intelligence, whether he's has a collegiate level of intelligence. You said you don't even know if he likes black women, which was the most egregious part of that whole thing. And just engaging in all sorts of blaming and shaming and deflection tactics, because it has to be something wrong with him in order for him to have done what he did, because there can't be anything wrong with you. This is the manifesto, the blueprint of a narcissistic person.
100%, bro.
You can't see the forest from the trees and understand how, in the grand scheme of things on planet Earth, how anyone could ever possibly fathom not giving you what you want or not giving you what you asked for. So it has to be something wrong with him, because God forbid there be something wrong with you.
Yeah, I'm a top model.
Yeah,
so no way he turns me down.
Yeah, and you question whether he understands the origin of the word plaque. You talk about whether he's operating on a collegiate education level. You question his preferences in women, because maybe he just don't like black women. That's why he don't like you. Bro, I got to tell you, I don't know who this chick is, honestly, but this kind of mentality represents the worst in humanity.
It
does. And, I've never been more on Plaqueboy Max's side prior to this moment. This woman can go kick rocks somewhere with her delusions of grandeur and her diversionary tactics. This perfectly exhibits narcissistic personality disorder. And it is sad that she has largely, from what I can tell, been rewarded for her self-destructive behavior for the vast majority of her life, because that is the only way to explain why someone in good faith would go on to her own social media and continue to peddle that kind of speech.
Crazy stuff, bro. It was a video out there where Jamar Chase
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, he was out in the streets. You know what I'm saying? This Dr. Miami Frankenstein type girl. You know what I'm saying? Just coming over there with her BBL, thinking that it's whatever. And he just brushed her off. The internet found it hilarious. And because of that, she came out and had to clear the air on some stuff or whatever. And it's like, damn, girl, sometimes you can get rejected. You know what I'm saying? Like, imagine every dude coming to the internet to explain to people why they got turned down. But we got to get all these explanations. When you got turned down. Listen, when I first saw this, I was like, this got to be some type of, this got to be a skit. But when I saw how enraged this lady was and how personally hurt she was, I was like, nah, man, this was real life. This ain't no internet fodder. Like, she out here, she really got her feelings hurt. It's a bad look. And I didn't think about the level of desirability, and her basically fighting for her career in a way, because now she's going to get memed up. These young people don't play. They're not going to forget who she is. And so, yeah, she needs to be desirable. And I didn't look at it as her fighting for a lifestyle and fighting for a career. But I'm telling you like this. I didn't know who she was either. It wasn't much of a career to fight for, even though I'm sure people knew your name. But this honestly gets into another conversation that I even have with the modeling industry. Because there are and I can see the beauty in everybody. So don't get me wrong here. All right. You know, if she hear me talk, she probably don't think I like black women. Okay. So I can see the beauty in everybody. But when people show me ugly stuff, I can see the ugly in those people. Okay. And this young lady here is displaying the ugly, as you mentioned, in your soliloquy there. All right. And that's the nastiness in which she was coming from all of this. You know, I can see the nastiness in her. Therefore, she loses desirability for me completely. Like if she was humble about the situation, A, she wouldn't ask for the kiss. Or B, even if she got turned down, she would have been a lot more humble about the situation. Whatever. But this lady, as you mentioned, she has some type of personality disorder that she just let on full display in her little rants there. So, but my issue with the modeling industry is, you know, you look at pictures of her and she's got an anorexic build. All right. You know, it's a sideshow. And it's what the modeling industry does, and what they promote. You know, you rarely see models that look good. You'll see models that look good, but not really. You know, in order to be a model, and I guess there's ebbs and flows to it, but right now the models that I'm seeing are of the unhealthy kind. They don't look nourished. And, you know, you can see bones. So her winning or being a contestant on the show, I don't know what her story is, but it's clearly ballooned in her head that she's desirable and bad. But you're desirable and bad to an industry that is predicated on some weird stuff. And that's why they chose you, because you got the body of a teenage boy. And I'm not trying to be funny here. That's what they're into in the modeling industry. You know, they're not into voluptuality and curves, you know, or peanut butter skin like Joy Taylor's. They're into the build that she has. So all in all, that industry has, like, who really keeps up with models nowadays? You know, that's what I'm saying. That industry is on some other stuff that the average everyday person don't see desirable anymore. You know, gone are the days of Tyra Banks and the ones that, you know, the Naomi Campbells that you can name by name. Like, people don't know these people no more. That's because the industry really doubled down on their weirdness, and they're into some weird stuff. So nobody knows nobody cares about them. And if you see those people in everyday life, you would ask, you know, do you need some help? You know, you give a can of Campbell soup. You know, you need some food. So all in all, this lady is delusional. She's lost in her own little world with her little model stuff. And yeah, an average everyday young man streamer would turn down some America's Top Model baddie, allegedly. But there's nothing bad about this woman but her attitude. So yeah, man, didn't care for this. And the internet letting her have it afterwards, I was also in favor.
Goody. Yes, she deserves it, because really what she needs to do is, man, see, I couldn't run this stuff, bro. Whatever chastising she receives online is not enough. It's not enough. And what I don't appreciate is the aspersions that she's casting on his character.
Right.
Because she was encountered with an undesired outcome.
And the guy was nothing but polite the whole time.
That's the part of it that bothers me the most. But I've actually encountered this firsthand before. I remember many years ago when I worked at a restaurant as a cook, there was a girl who liked me, and I didn't reciprocate. Now, mind you, and listen, I'm not trying to you know, talk down on nobody or nothing like that. Everybody, there's somebody for everybody. Everybody's preferences are different. Just because I have my own sets of preferences doesn't mean that I believe the whole world runs on my timeline. Those are my own preferences. I'm not saying any other person has the same preferences as me, nor do I believe that my preferences are the only and right preferences. They are just my own. But I personally don't really like overweight women like that. That's just my own preference. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. I'm not trying to, you know, be funny and nothing like that. That's just my thing. And there was a girl who I worked with who liked me, and she was, you know, overweight. And I don't mean she was like chunky or, you know, maybe had love handles or whatnot. She was just big. She was overweight. That's not really my steez. And so I didn't reciprocate her advances. And, you know, she started walking around talking about how I don't like black women because I didn't like her. And it's like, what brand of narcissism are you so enveloped in that you think that because I turned you down, that it must mean that I just don't like all black women? How absurd of a notion is that? But she was actively walking around saying that. It was the most ridiculous thing that I've ever experienced. But that happens. So there are people whose behavior over time, and this chick was a regular chick. She ain't no celebrity. At least this woman is weirdo America's Next Top Hollywood, next top model crap.
Mm-hmm.
But this girl was a cashier at the barbecue joint that I worked at. She wasn't nobody special. She didn't have no notoriety. And yet she had her behavior throughout the course of her life rewarded to the extent in which she did not know how to encounter any kind of rejection.
Mm-hmm.
So the only way that she can reconcile it is by drawing the conclusion that there's something wrong with me.
Mm-hmm.
So this is trickled down to everybody. It's not just going on in celebrity weirdo world.
Mm-hmm.
And people need to get a grip and understand the world does not operate on your timeline.
Correct.
This is not the world according to you or any other one individual. And so this is just disgusting, dangerous to the highest order rhetoric.
Yes.
And if she suffered more career setbacks, even though I don't wish for anybody's livelihood to be particularly compromised, I wouldn't lose sleep over it because, in my opinion, she deserved it.
Yeah, hey man, this is not a good look for her. So she's gonna have to do some PR stuff to clean this up, man. Because for a lot of young people in the world right now, their first impression of her is this. So, and I bring up the young people because, well, these are going to be the people supporting you when you wanted to parlay your career into being somebody like a Tyra Banks that has a TV show or whatever she's trying to do and grow her brand and her life. Like a lot of these young people are going to end up supporting you. So this is not a good look for her. You don't want to be on the wrong side of internet memes with these young people. So, and her just doubling and tripling down didn't help the case. So, yeah, just tighten up, man. But honestly, for the ladies out there that don't know how to take rejection, man, I don't know what to say about that, man. But life ain't gonna always give you what you want. So, so sometimes you got to take it on the chin, there, Miss Miss Jawline. So, hey, man, best of luck to her, and shout out to Plaqueboy, man. You know, he came out on the clean side on this one.
Yeah, I'm just, you know, listening to this woman, I feel like I need a shower. Just everything that came out of her mouth was just gross and disgusting.
Hey man, I knew that was gonna get to you, bro. I knew, but hey, that was good TV right there, man. This stuff.
And now we move on to Friend of the channel, Russell Wilson.
Yeah, Big Russ.
Once again being called a weirdo by yet another former teammate. This time, Trevone Boykin, who has his own set of past, histories with issues. And he described an experience in which he was invited to spend Thanksgiving with Russell Wilson. And when he got there and saw that it was him and his family with Sierra, but didn't see any of his own immediate family, he believed that that was weird. And so he was kind of saying that Russell Wilson was a bit weird for that. Shannon Sharpe, of course, took exception to this, coming out in defense of Russ. He didn't really appreciate the way Boykin characterizes Russell Wilson as weird because he doesn't really know what Russell has going on in terms of his family dynamic. So this says Shannon Sharpe calls out ex-NFL star Trevone Boykin for Russell Wilson criticism. The word star is a bit of an embellishment there.
Yeah.
A Thanksgiving invitation at Russell Wilson's home unexpectedly turned into a podcast debate and eventually a public clapback after former Seahawks backup quarterback Trevone Boykin described the gathering as weird. And according to Hollywood Unlocked, once the comments circulated online, Hall of Famer Shannon Sharpe didn't hesitate to weigh in. Boykin, who spent part of the 2016 season backing up Wilson in Seattle, recently recalled being invited to Wilson's home for Thanksgiving during a podcast appearance. According to Boykin, the dinner included Wilson, his wife Sierra, their children, baby Future, a private chef, and several dogs. What stood out to him wasn't the hospitality, but who wasn't there. He added that it struck him as unusual that Wilson's mother and sisters weren't present, saying it's still weird to me. That framing didn't sit well with Sharpe. Speaking alongside Chad Ochocinco Johnson, Sharpe mocked Boykin's decision to critique someone who hosted him for a holiday meal. Without defending or attacking Wilson's personal choices directly, Sharpe emphasized a simpler point. Families don't all celebrate the same way, and being invited into someone's home comes with an expectation of discretion. While Wilson remains one of the most recognizable quarterbacks of his era, with a Super Bowl ring and over a decade as a franchise starter, Trevone Boykin's NFL career followed a far different trajectory. Undrafted out of TCU in 2016, Boykin appeared in a limited reserve role with Seattle, starting one game while Wilson recovered from injury. Off-field legal trouble soon overshadowed his football future. In late 2015, Boykin was arrested following a bar fight in San Antonio that resulted in charges including assault on a public servant. In 2017, he was arrested again in Dallas for marijuana possession and public intoxication after a vehicle incident that injured pedestrians. The most serious allegations came in 2018 when Boykin was charged with aggravated assault involving his girlfriend, Shabrika Bailey, after he broke her jaw during a domestic dispute. Those charges ultimately led to a guilty plea for aggravated assault and witness tampering. In 2020, Boykin was sentenced to 3 years in prison for the crime.
Wow.
So yeah, pretty serious stuff. Now here is a little playback of the series of events.
Russell Wilson, I went to his house for Thanksgiving. The weirdest feel like he catered. So like, bro, I come from a traditional country black family.
We doing that.
If I got as much money as Russell Wilson, my whole family would talk about me so bad if I ain't fly everybody out there for Thanksgiving. And I'm sponsored by an airline.
Yeah. Maybe he's not close to his family.
And maybe he not. But his mama wasn't there. Sisters wasn't there. You know what I'm saying? Like, and even though, like, it's still weird to me. I'm just still, even if you don't fool with your family, like, it's still weird to me on Thanksgiving. My family gonna do the food. This is what we gonna do. If you the one with the money, we coming to your house. You know what I'm saying? Like, let me
that part.
That's what we gonna do. So
Yeah.
to get over there and catch Russell Wilson, like him, is literally him, Sierra Daddy, me, Noonie, Baby Future, the chef, and 2 nannies, and 3 dogs. And Baby Future at that time was bad as hell.
Wow.
I hope I got an answer for you too.
Why is he sharing the information anyway?
Cause see, that's Not chat. Now you see why I don't have a whole lot of mofos at my house. See, he worried about somebody else's family. Yo, black there. He invited you. He looked at you like family. And what you do?
Turn around and come
got diarrhea of the
it.
mouth. You think you telling something. Man, I went to Russell House, that mansion, it was weird. Yeah, because he had an outsider in there. That was the weird part about it. That's why you don't let people come to your house, chat. Nobody. First of all, no. Me and my brother had money. Guess what Thanksgiving was always at? Granny's house.
Yeah, I think, is there more? Yeah.
Even though we couldn't get back, it was always going to be there. When we had a big cookout, Ocho, guess where it was? In Granny's backyard.
Damn.
Why?
I don't get it. I'm confused. Why is everybody always looking for a moment? Why is everybody always looking for a moment to go viral or to get your little 15 minutes? He let you into his home on Thanksgiving, a special day. Okay, if the family wasn't there, maybe they don't get along. Maybe they don't see eye to eye. I mean, I don't get it.
I don't get it either, Ocho.
I don't understand.
His family wasn't there, but you was there. But you take this opportunity now, years later,
to talk about it.
Because Russ ain't been in Seattle for a long period of time.
Right.
And now you bring this up. Because you try to, guess who was there? Sierra Daddy, Baby Future, the chef. For the most part, I have a get together. I'm catering it.
Yeah. Oh, that's.
I just don't get, bro. I don't get that. Why you put this man? This man invited you into his home. You tell him what's happening inside this man's home. That's what. See, and people are, man, you antisocial. No, I'm anti people running their damn mouth. Ain't nobody. That man invited you into his home. I guarantee you, Russ don't invite a whole lot of people into his home.
No,
for the most part, they say Russ was standoffish. He's not. He invited your into his home, and the things that he get, no good deed goes unpunished. This is the things he get. I don't blame Russ. Now I see why Russ don't F with a whole lot of people. Russ had to find out the whole hard way.
Yeah. So what do you think about that? You on Shannon Sharpe's side on this one, or
yeah, I guess I got to be on his side because how can you not? When I first saw this clip, bruh, talking about it, I was like, I was more like what Chad was saying, like, what's the point of this? What are you doing? Why am I hearing about this? And him saying that it was weird, and I was like, what's weird about that? Maybe his family was maybe he's not where his family's at. Maybe he's in a different city. And then I started thinking like how what Shannon was saying. I was like, well, he invited you. Where was your family? Why are you spending it with Russell? Where's your mama? I was like, bro, what are you doing, dog? But this is my thing with this whole conversation. And I used to be a Boykin fan, by the way. Full disclosure here, because I was there his first game. I don't know who they played. I can't remember right now. I can look it up, I guess. But I watched this first game when he played for TCU. And black quarterback, playing for TCU, whatever. And I'm like, all right, man. And I was a fan of the guy. So his whole career, while he was in college. Then, I didn't think he was going to go to the NFL, but when I heard that he was, on the bench at Seattle, I was happy for that he made it to the league. So this is somebody that I was, shadow following. I did know he got into legal trouble. I didn't know it was all of that. A lot of CTE behavior and his charges. But I completely forgot about this dude. So when I saw this clip, I'm like, what's going on here? And then when they said the name and I Googled, I was like, oh, that's bro. And I'm like, well, why are you doing this, dog? And this is my problem with sports podcasting, because I used to love it, man. I used to love sports podcasts because they were talking about the game. You know, they were talking about stuff that I would never know about that went on with the game. Back in another C19 reference. Back in C19, bruh, Quentin Richardson and Darius Miles, man, they got me through a lot of boring stuff, man, because I used to watch their podcast with them sitting there talking to all the players. And they were keeping it basketball. I didn't hear no locker room tea. I didn't hear what was going on in players' personal lives. But nowadays, these guys that's just podcasting or whatever, these athletes, they get on there and start airing people out. They start talking dirty laundry stuff. They start beefing with each other and weird stuff going on. I'm like, what about this stuff is man? You know, I'm feeling like Dame Dash out here calling these guys chatty patties because they're just sitting on there talking about stuff that was supposed to be for the locker room. You know, I used to like listening to these guys talk because I thought they was going to tell me about, you know, things with their preparation, funny stories about, you know, what coach said to them or whatever during film or, you know, something like that. But talking about other people's business, talking about what other people was doing, like drugs or something, like I've heard it all with these athletes talking on these podcasts. So when I saw this clip, I said, this is the most baseless name drop I've ever heard when it comes to these athletes. I've never heard a story so irrelevant being told by an ex-athlete for clout. You know, he was saying Baby Future name like I'm supposed to care. And Baby Future was there like, I don't give a damn about Baby Future. And he was bad too. You happy you saw Baby Future, bro? You're being weird. So all in all, man, I'm with Shannon Sharpe and Ocho with this. This is strange stuff. And knowing Russ, and even though Russ probably knew that this guy had some issues or whatever, Russ was just trying to extend a helping hand, I'm sure, and say, hey, man, he ain't got no family here, whatever. Let me look out for bruh. And now it turns into this situation of he being weird. So, yeah, man, it's just a strange situation, but there's no way I can side with Boykins on this one. He's all the way in the weird with this. But what are your thoughts, bruh, on this Boykins guy airing out Russell Wilson for being weird on Thanksgiving?
Yeah, sports podcasting is becoming more and more its own. Yeah, it's becoming its own version. So my theory on this is these guys are just trying to become streamer famous. I feel. I think a lot of these ex-athletes who go into their own, you know, podcasting space and they've created their own show. What I think they want to do is they want to become like Kai Cenat or Plaqueboy Max or Aiden Ross. They want to be these guys. In that world, as a content creator, going viral via doing wacky things and saying wacky things and hosting wacky live streams, that's what works over there in that world. But within a sports context, it doesn't really make sense to do it in the same way. So I kind of feel like the sports version of virility and being wacky and saying wacky stuff is spilling locker room tea. That's the sports version. That's the sports version of rising to that level of being a streamer as a former athlete. Because that's what I think they want. Because streamers are the new celebrities, especially for younger generations. And what I think that these athletes want to do now, I think we're moving away from athletes wanting to be hip hop stars and rappers, which was always the intertwined connection, right? Ball players want to be rappers and rappers want to be ball players. I think we're moving away from that dynamic, and I think the dichotomy is now becoming athletes want to be streamers and content creators. I believe that. That's what I believe. I think they want to get some. They want to occupy that space, that level of fame, and within a sports context, I think locker room tea and gossip is the way to get there.
Stuff lame, bro.
I really don't even think that this would have been a thing if we were talking about any player other than Russell Wilson. Like, let's just say hypothetically speaking that it was Richard Sherman. Let's just say hypothetically speaking, and I don't know Richard Sherman or his life. I'm just trying to make a point. But let's just say hypothetically speaking that it wasn't Russell Wilson, but rather Richard Sherman who invited him to the house, and just swap those two individuals, but leave all the rest of the circumstances the exact same. So let's say it was Richard Sherman who was hosting, and it was Richard Sherman and his woman and her baby and 2 chefs or 2 nannies and a chef and Richard Sherman's woman's dad. Same exact thing. I don't think this would have been a conversation point.
Yeah, what's weird about that?
The reason why? Because Russell Wilson is a lightning rod. You capitalize off of Russell Wilson's namesake,
right?
Of him being weird to put yourself on.
Yeah.
Because any other athlete, if it's the same set of circumstances, Richard Sherman doesn't have a reputation for being a weirdo.
Right.
So there's nothing really to use as leverage to put myself in a different stratosphere in terms of content or to attempt to go viral. Even though the circumstances are the exact same, you're just switching out the individuals involved. This is one of the reasons why I am inclined at times to come to Russell Wilson's defense when we talk about certain things.
Yeah, no, for sure. Because he gets a bad rap a lot. So
it's like, where's the beef? Instantly. They were teammates in, what was that, 2016, 2017?
Yeah, a while ago, bro.
Almost a decade ago?
Yeah, he bringing it up now.
What are we doing? I don't get, like, I think this is a Russell Wilson thing.
Yeah.
Because like you said, what if they're in Seattle and Russell Wilson's family is in, I don't know, Georgia?
Right.
What the heck? I lived away from my family for nearly 2 decades. And after a while, I stopped coming home for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And I would go to somebody else's house, or I would invite other people to my place, and we would do something.
And guess what? Your family understood that.
Yes, and they and the people who I invited over weren't questioning why my family wasn't there. So this to me is a Russell Wilson thing, honestly, and it's another piece of evidence for me of individuals attempting to leverage Russell Wilson's place within like social discourse as an opportunity to get social cachet for themselves. And it's why I'm often inclined to come to his defense, because this to me was completely unwarranted.
It was.
But what are you gonna do? So yeah, I'm with Shannon Sharpe on this too. I don't really get it. I don't even remember, bro. So it is what it is. But I think if you take that exact same story and just switch Russell Wilson out for somebody else, it's a non-story.
If he said that,
the only reason why it's a story is because it's Russell Wilson involved. So let me try to jump on the Russell Wilson as a weirdo train.
Yeah, no, that's 100% true. I thought about it, and it was just low hanging fruit because it's Russell Wilson. But I didn't do the swap scenario. So imagine if he said that about Marshawn Lynch. People really would be calling this Boykin guy weird. It's like, what do you mean, Marshawn? And this guy's argument was Russ makes so much money that flying his people in would have been the thing. And it's just like, hey man, sometimes people don't want to use their money for that. And what if you don't know their family dynamics?
That is the kind of thing that a person with no money says.
Exactly.
Because you don't know logistically all that is involved in doing something like that.
Yeah, you
know what I'm saying? That's what a person without Russell Wilson's money would say.
Exactly. And so, yeah, man, this guy here, man, I don't know what it is. But again, bro, like I mentioned, bro, those those situations that he got himself caught in legally, it sounds like CTE stuff. And this decision here wasn't very wise either. If he's trying to go viral, and he figured that he can use America's punching bag, Russell Wilson, to do it, and everybody was going to be on his side about that. Like, see, more evidence that Russell Wilson's a weirdo. I've seen more people attacking this Boykin guy than anything, and so this is another situation, man. The last two, where the internet, in my opinion, has gotten it right. You know, they're not siding with the weird behavior, because that's weird. Bringing up something from probably a decade ago, just to say that somebody was being weird because of how they chose to spend Thanksgiving. Come on, bro. That's that. And he invited you to his house. Even if somebody said this not on a podcast, if this was a one-on-one situation and this guy was telling me this, you know, and he said this, I was like, damn, bro, man invited you to his house. Like,
I'd be like, why are you throwing him under the bus like that?
Yeah, like,
why are you telling me this?
Yeah, I would have been like, bro, what was weird about it? That would have been my whole thing. Like, what's weird? You didn't tell me nothing weird. You know what I'm saying? And so it would have been strange if he told me this on close quarters. The fact that he got on a podcast unprovoked, because I wanted to go look at the clip, unprovoked. They didn't say, hey, any strange stories about anything. This guy just broke into it. So he had this in the batter's box, warming up. Yeah, I can't wait to tell that Russ. Man, what? So yeah, man, these guys, but we're gonna see more of this. We're gonna see more of this from these athletes, telling us stuff that we do not want to hear about from either locker room or anything else. Like, I don't want to hear about these guys' personal stuff, man, because what happened to the football fraternity? What happened to the brotherhood? These guys, or the basketball fraternity, a little talk about a little fraternity too. And these guys be just throwing each other under the bus with the weirdest stories, man. And I hate it. And you're right, man. It's all for content, algorithm, and all this other stuff. And it's like, y'all gotta stoop to these levels of petty tabloid stuff just so y'all can. What happened to y'all millions of dollars in y'all contract? So it's bizarre stuff, man. I don't get it. I don't like it. But unfortunately, this is a part of content creation nowadays for these athletes, and it's disgusting.
Yeah, it is. It's a part of content creation, plain and simple. And yeah, I think these guys just want to get streamer famous. That's what I think. I think they're trying to get streamer famous. You know, it represents a middle ground, you know, for the ones who have too much dignity to do like Dancing with the Stars, you know what I'm saying? Or some gimmicky stuff like that Navy SEALs show that Cam Newton was on. So that's kind of the stuff that these ex-athletes who are hard up for money, they'll resort to stuff like that. But I think streaming and podcasting represents a nice middle ground where I need to make ends and I'm no longer involved in the sports business, but I also have too much dignity to resort to reality television or any of this other weird stuff. So what's a happy medium that I can strike? Oh, let me try to become a content creator. Oh, but as a content creator, I need to go viral. So as a sports person, how can I do that? Oh, let me just engage in gossip, sports gossip.
This is disgusting, dog. But what's happening to our stuff, man?
Listen, bro, like I've said before, bro, nothing is sacred anymore. And everything that we used to believe in preserving the sanctity of is being tarnished. You know, and the thing is, I can't even call them bad faith actors anymore because everybody's doing it. You know, it's like the good faith actors are in the minority because everybody is just bad faith acting. It sucks, bro. But I agree with you. We are going to see more of it. And there's nothing we can do to stop it because this is where we're at.
Unbelievable, bro. Unbelievable.
So 1,000 lashes to Trevone Boykin.
Yes.
I'm not a fan of this. And yeah, I'm with Shannon on this and Chad Ochocinco. And shouts out to Russ, man. People need to get off Russ's back. I'm getting tired of this.
Yeah,
and
you know what?
I'm not trying to say that Russ is the perfect person,
right?
Or that Russ doesn't have his own quirks. But enough is enough. Y'all done skinned enough of this cat. Okay, let's move on to something else.
I agree with that. So I mean, yeah, I'm no Russ defender or whatever. I'm neutral to all of this stuff, but I'm really starting to notice a trend where he's just sitting in the corner of the classroom. Everybody's still attacking him. He didn't do anything. He's literally just sitting right there. So at some point, some people ask to be bullied. They do. And I don't feel sorry for those people because you're asking for it. You got some weird little kink about this. But there's some people that avoid bullying completely and they're just quiet, not bothering nobody. And then here comes the BS. I don't like that. And that's what it seems like what's going on with Russ right now. So 1,000 lashes agreed, bro, to this dude. Don't care for it.
Yeah. All right, y'all. That was good stuff, man. But it is time for us to sign off. It is time for us to sign off. A round of applause to everybody who checked us out on tonight's stream. And a round of applause to everybody who is going to check us out via our individual video uploads. Check us out, JV Wins Dogon SS. I'm on IG at JV Wins, JVWINS. Check out Conscious Approach on both TikTok and Instagram at Con Approach, CONAPPROACH. Download the podcast on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Check us out. And yeah, man, as I always like to say, man, don't be a group thinker. Have a mind of your own. Think for yourself. Shouts out to everybody who is a part of the community. And until next time, we cannot wait to see you on the next live stream. Be safe. Y'all enjoy life. Don't be a narcissist. And keep doing good things in the world.
Hey, yeah. And the name is Dogon SS. And you can find me on Instagram at Dogon_SS, on YouTube, DraftKings, MySpace, Facebook, Meta. Hell, man, if there's a social media platform out there, Dogon_SS is also out there. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, follow, and all that good jazz. And as I say every week, guys, we greatly appreciate you all for watching, liking, sharing, consciously leaving comments. All right. And so without you guys, or no us out here crushing it weekly, dropping jewels. All right. Like a cat burglar. All right. And as I say every week, guys, don't be too high, don't be too low. Keep it calm, keep it chill, keep it player. And don't let anybody get you off your pivot. So until next week, ladies and gentlemen, when the Miami Hurricanes are inducted into the college football playoffs, I'll see you guys next time because I still got more rings than Robert Horry. We'll see y'all next week.
Yeah, I hope y'all get in. That's what's up. We have another year of Mike Norvell. So
my condolences, bro. That's sad, dog.
Hey, look, man. Not everybody can afford to pay an $80 million buyout or whatever it is. So you got to dance with the devil that brought you.
That's fair, bro.
Yeah, but we signing off, folks. Thank you very much. We'll catch you on the flip side. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you later. Peace.
Peace. Okay. Yeah.